Episode 6. Tyler from Ripple Wellness. And what's the others you got?
All of our other businesses are kind of wrapped under Ripple Wellness.
Okay.
Property management and involved in the gas station.
Yeah, you have the store. Yeah, you're a partner in the store.
Yeah.
So I guess the best way to start is like what we started with Bobby is like where was the beginning?
At the beginning in cannabis in general is, my childhood.
Your childhood, but was you're obviously successful and you have drive, and that came from somewhere too.
Yeah, I guess grew up in a household where my father ran a small business, so that was always kind of ingrained in me. Like,
you saw him grinding.
Yeah, exactly. He's always working hard and overworking, but feeding his family, and grew up super fortunate as a young kid, and kind of got the hustle and drive through him, I guess. And
right.
The insight of, you can work for yourself. You could do what you want in life if, you work for it, chase your dream. So
you were saying you grew up in Connecticut?
Yep.
So city-ish or?
I grew up on the shoreline outside New Haven, so kind of suburb, 20 minutes from New Haven, which is similar size to Portland, maybe. One
of the things I noticed about Connecticut is it's like there's a lot of rich and a lot of poor, and it's like a lot of opportunity, it seems, and there's a lot of money flowing around.
Yeah, there's a lot larger of a demographic of people.
Yeah.
So the wage gap isn't so severe as it is up here in Maine.
Right.
It's more a lot of middle class, upper middle class. There's a lot of wealth in Connecticut, obviously, but it's not all, rich Gold Coast, as they say.
No, but it seems kind of like a wild place. Like the dudes, a lot of the dudes I met from Connecticut was through sports and stuff, but they were extremely talented and really hardworking, but like had this wild side to them for whatever reason, like just almost like cowboyish, like it was just this different mindset where it was like kind of city, kind of not.
I guess with the volume of people there versus the volume of people here, you kind of are forced to keep up or get in line, I guess.
That's one of the things I respect about like New York is you meet someone from New York and it's like, dude, he's had like 7 Red Bulls at 4 a.m. And you're like waking up, you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
What it's like it's that constant pulse, I guess you'd say, of like I'm behind.
Yeah, there's like the get up and go a little bit, that I call it the East Coast mentality.
Yeah.
It's something that I love and hate. It's a big reason why I moved to California when I was young. As soon as I graduated high school, I was already heavily handed into cannabis at that point.
You moved to Cali to learn, or did you hear about it? Was it one of those things where like I'm going?
I was super big into music as a kid. My father's a musician, so live music was large in my life since I was
So he's in a band?
Yeah, he's always just played in local bands my entire life, so
that's it.
New Haven's got a large music culture, and kind of grew up in that music scene, met a lot of people, and one of my friends through the scene was kind of chasing the same dream, like, I want to go to Cali and grow pot, and that's kind of what it was. So me and him took every last dollar we had, threw it at California, drove out there in our vans, and bought a property on the side of a hill.
You just straight up went out and bought one?
Yeah, I bought it cash. It was like a cheap deal, $20,000 for 20 acres on the side of a mountain. No well, no septic, no electric. So backwoods style shit.
Yes. First year must
gorilla grow.
That was what year?
2011, I think we bought the property.
So 2011, that's when things just were kind of getting going here. They've been going like
I was naive to that. I am young, and I almost wish my eyes were open to just staying on the East Coast when I was younger. And there's so many times I wish I just came up to Maine earlier.
But you can't think like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. You learn some shit out there that makes you what your brand is. You know what I mean? So,
correct. And everything along the way has been giant learning experience.
So that first crop, was it one that was like, this is all or nothing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you're just buying, like, how'd you do it back then?
Did hammocks and campers on the side of the hill. We, tapped our neighbor's well line. He was kind enough to share it. And,
really?
Yeah. Then local fire department actually trucked in like 1,000 gallons at a time. We pay them like whatever, 20 cents a gallon. They'd bring it up to our hill and drop it in a reservoir at the top of the hillside.
And you told them what you were doing?
Yeah, they were cool. Yeah, like that's been always a big thing, or at least something I've tried to maintain, is somewhat of
Transparency.
transparency and upward approach.
So you were licensed and shit?
Yeah, exactly. All
Wow.
back then at the time, medical card is all you needed, just like our medical card here, but it was 99. So, our abilities as a medical patient were greater than
99 plants?
99 plants, yeah.
Whoa.
They were greater than they are currently for you and I. So there was a lot of potential for growth and a lot of opportunity there. And, the registration process for patient card at the time was so easy.
So did you have any growing experience? Or was this just fuck it?
I did have some growing experience.
Okay.
Yeah, that through, the music industry as a, kind of young up and coming kid.
It's weed friendly.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of a few people took me under their wing. And worked in a couple of gardens in upstate New York as a kid.
Cool.
Indoor, outdoor experience, and fucked around with seeds when I was 12, playing them in the woods, probably like every kid with some interest in weed.
Oh, yeah. So you go out there and then...
So
did it go fairly smooth?
No, not at all. I had little to no experience. At the end of the day, had to help do simple things, harvest and trim. And, like everybody going into it thought I knew more than I did. And it was interesting.
You got humbled that first year?
Oh, yeah. My partner was in the same boat. And we really knew if something that we put our nose to the grind and chased, it was going to work. And we just didn't know what we were in for.
Yeah. So how did that first summer go?
The first summer was actually super interesting and gives a brief insight on how things unfolded. We bought the property. I was still in high school at the time.
Oh, damn.
So my partner was out there, full time. I was out in California every time I could get, just weekend, whatever it was, taking 2 weeks off school, just every single chance I got, the whole summer, obviously. And at one point I got, hemmed up in New York with some weed and did some time in Connecticut for it.
Yeah.
And during that time was kind of that first summer. So while I was incarcerated, my partner was broke eating rice and beans on the side of a hill. And it's an interesting experience. And once I got out, it was luckily a short period and got right back to California. And really just that first harvest was so much learning, so much failure, so much waste. And
at least there was a first harvest, though.
Exactly. It went well, and what we put into it and what we got out, it worked. And we just doubled down, and that kind of became the pattern. Took that whole harvest, took everything we got out of it from all the shops, and just traded up the property. Basically, the property management group we were working with was generous to they were super cannabis friendly. Excuse me. They took us under kind of their wing, just able to exchange our property in a sense for next level, a little bit flatter area, double wide on it, somewhere to live.
That's pretty friggin' awesome. I mean, that's
stepping stone was all 100% or nothing, so we doubled down and did it all again for 2, 3, 4 more years. Just kind of new property every year as it developed.
Right.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Lots of learning.
That's pretty sick. So you learned the hard way, outside, probably like you were growing organically or...
Yeah, at the time, organics were my main focus.
Right.
All super soil, living soil.
Yeah.
Just, outside, I think that's how...
Makes sense.
Cannabis should always be grown.
Yeah. And then, so what made you decide to make the trip back?
So I guess that legal trouble just paved the way. I've always been just kind of at the forefront of the industry, per se, when it comes to the legal battle.
Right.
Found myself in multiple shitty situations, per se.
Yeah.
And, a lot of it just made me want to be closer to my family.
Right.
Which is all East Coast, Connecticut based. The guys who got me into growing are all, upstate New York guys.
Yeah.
And I was really just wanting to bring it home, get closer to my roots. And at the time, the last, 2015 is when I really moved back here full time, I guess. Cannabis was just now friendly on the East Coast.
Right. It was a much easier thing for people to get into and find a warehouse and
just more socially accepted as that transparency was easier out here.
Right.
2015 versus 2011.
Oh, totally, 100%.
2011, everything was illegal.
Yeah, and you can't tell CMP what you're doing. You can't tell the landlord really. You can't say, hey, dude, I want to rent your whole 8,000 square foot
no,
space
it's
to grow
all
weed.
Houses and just nothing really the safest.
Yeah, no, but you had a nice. So you had been doing it. You probably saved some money, and you had a nice, start to come back? You know what I mean?
It was a rocky road, and
yeah, I'm sure.
You know, I got into the extraction side. It was super new. You know, as it developed in the industry, you know, I was always kind of a bubble hash guy back in the day.
Okay.
You know, smoking as a connoisseur.
Yeah.
And as BHO developed, I was always intrigued by it. Really chased that head first, and chased some of the licensing in Colorado for it. And so simultaneous to the gardens out there, and kind of putting everything we had into property development and
you were
growth. I was learning a lot about like the research end of, you know, the oil extraction, I guess, proper BHO extraction at the time.
Right.
You know, we went out to Colorado, trained with Extraction Tech, and, you know, got the UL listed machines and everything, and pushed all that back to Rhode Island.
Because it wasn't really here.
Yeah, nobody was really doing that out here. And at the time, I was seeing a lot of familiar faces to it. California, Colorado.
Yeah.
And it was saturated.
Right.
And,
of course.
You know, cannabis being friendly, or more friendly, above board, out on the East Coast, they, you know, had the brilliant idea of maybe let's get the first extraction company out on the East Coast. And
right.
It worked, and it didn't.
You see, I noticed when the market got kind of saturated with bud, everybody was kind of growing the same way, doing the same type of thing. You know, the lab rolls into town, and nobody has the new, whether it was, you know, nice looking shatter at first, and then this consistency, and then that. Everyone is kind of not giving a shit about their grow, because it doesn't really matter going in when it's new what it looked like. It's just you needed to get that out. And then now we've kind of come out of that to where the bud, you could sell it, and probably at the end of the day, if you had to pay a lab, it's kind of the same, to where it was a new thing. You know, there's like one lab in Maine, and when that one lab, you're like fighting to get that spot in there, and it doesn't matter, you know, what you're throwing to them, because it's better than what he has, because he doesn't have a lab. You know, it's like that open blast versus a lab, good luck. Exactly. You know what I mean? And so it's just, so was that what it was like in Rhode Island?
Yeah, that's where, and even out in California where we were, you know, people were doing scary shit on the side of hillsides with open blasting.
So it was really, like they say, the Wild West.
Oh, 100%.
Just crazy.
Without a doubt. And out there, it was easy for me to see the people who wanted to choose to do things above and beyond, do them right.
Yeah.
The guys who wanted to get into the research of it and do the extraction safely with closed loops and in, you know, UL listed environments, explosion proof where they could. Those people excelled so quickly out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess rump wax is a good example that probably many people of today's market have no idea, but
never heard of it.
You know, a kid out in Humboldt that just, you know, chose to go a lab route versus open blast, and out there at the time, you know, farmers didn't know what to do with trim. They'd give it to you and give them half.
I used to throw it away.
Yeah, so, you know, at the time, just doing things right, there was like an unlimited pipeline.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody wanted to deal with a lab that was working correctly versus these, you know, hippies on the side of a mountain blowing themselves up. You know, so it's, I kind of saw that developing, and, you know, we were the hippies on the side of a mountain growing the weed, and, you know, the lab thing, we were so far behind on there, it just seemed like the most sensible way to do it was Rhode Island, you know, somewhere close to Connecticut where I grew up, and I don't know, it seemed like the sensible decision at the time, but it panned out. I think I was a little too early.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of cities and towns on the East Coast, and to me, Rhode Island's one of those states where I love it, but I don't want to stay long. You know, I have some really good friends in there, and it's like the old echoes of the mafia and Italian guys, and, you know, it's like, it's just a crazy place.
Yeah.
It's so crooked and weird, and you can get what you want if you pay. And I mean, one of my good friends owned East Coast Hydroponics, and they sold to Grow Generations.
Yep.
And he was just telling me about the rules. Like, the cops have to come inspect the grow before you can turn the lights on, and shit like that. It's just like...
Yeah, I feel like when I first moved there, I was so naive and young, you know, and it just was like, oh, there's a medical program, and there wasn't one in Connecticut at the time.
Right.
So it's like, there's at least a way to operate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, got there, got my medical card, and then things started to unfold where it was very restricted, and if you had the okay through the state, you know, you were good to go. And, you know, I think that as the industry develops and how things have gone over the last 10 years, that seems to be a common factor.
Yeah.
At least on the cannabis side, but I think there's many other things that play into that. And I don't think at the time the state was kind of making an example of the BHO. There was a lot of explosions. People got hurt. I had the intentions of being a professional lab. We were using all explosion proof fans. We had UL listed equipment. I was trained and badged in Colorado, doing as much as I physically could to deliver a correct experience. And I guess it was just a perfect example for them to make of a clandestine operation versus like a state licensed operation. Even though at the time we were processing product that ended up on one of the 4 state licensed dispensaries in Rhode Island. So it was a very gray area at the time, and it just bit me in the ass because I don't think I would really fit in there.
It's one of those things where as not just in this industry but in every industry, you got to be right on the edge of that wave to where a lot of people aren't really willing to go. And it could be the biggest, awesomest payoff, or it could be, in this industry, jail.
Yeah, and that's something I found out at a young age. And, passion for cannabis is what's really driven me through all this. And the scale and what I've been doing at certain times in my life has been depicted, obviously, by the legal environment. And, as we were joking about before, like there was a long period, just where I was on probation and wasn't consuming cannabis or wasn't directly hands-on in cannabis, but my intention has always been my lifelong cannabis relation.
Well, that's the difference between somebody like you and somebody who just gives up and wants to say for the rest of their life, what if you stood where you needed to at the time till you could get your chance back, and you waited. Most people just say, all right, I'm going to go pump gas.
Yeah, I'm not willing to give up ever. No. Not that kind of person, but it definitely put things into perspective for me and, really painted quite the experience. But, the DEA got involved. It was pretty ugly.
With
picture.
The lab?
Yeah, with the lab. And
that's why you couldn't smoke?
Yes, correct. So, long story short, that'll take up our entire time frame here. But
go as long as you want.
Yeah, the town police figured we were growing pot there, and we had our medical card. From our perspective, young and dumb, we took the proper precautions. From the state's inspection eyes, it wasn't that way. So we had our apartment outfitted with a grow that wasn't up to code for electrical reasons or whatever. But our plant count was on point. Where we thought we were interpreting it right, but we weren't. So that one thing led to another, and through code and electrical violations, they're going around the building and found a lab, and in the lab, same thing. Everything was done to code in the lab space, but at the time it was so unfamiliar to the city and the town, the volume we were doing, processing a lot of trim for patients and local caregivers who were legally growing. And I guess the scale, just the town really wasn't privy to it, and they saw it, walked right out of the building, called the feds, and got a federal search warrant. DEA came to town and went to town.
Did you know that they were going to come to town?
I didn't. So the whole time this was all going on, I was actually in California.
Yeah.
This was my last year transitioning from farming out there to coming back here, and that was a ugly story with partnerships not working correctly out there. So there was transitioning from California to here, and my last kind of hurrah out there was the Chalice Festival, and it's crazy highs and lows. We won highest terpenes and second best sativa at Chalice Festival back in 2015, and 3 days later I get a phone call, hey, you probably shouldn't come back to Rhode Island. The DEA is taking all your shit out of this lab right now, and they're all looking for you. I don't know what's happening. So it's kind of like the ultimate high. Like we finally, put a stamp on the industry and pushing the envelope, but we pushed it too far. And
so how many years had that been going, Chalice Festival?
That was the second year at Chalice.
Second year, and were you like a no-name? You just roll in?
Yeah, pretty much. So the year prior, I had, again, music's always been super big in my life. I was at a California Roots Reggae Festival out in Monterey, and just bumped into, at the time, some random kid who turns out is Brendan from Third Gen Family Farms out in Mendocino.
Yeah.
And it was cool. I just got to organically meet him and talk to him. We smoked all weekend, and just what we were smoking, and seemed to be on the same page.
Right.
And, I told him, like, I'm from the East Coast, and this is the shit we're growing, and his whole perspective was like, no way, keep doing what you're doing, you got this. So I was a no name, but I had the confidence behind me that the big names out in Cali at the time, organically got behind me.
Yeah.
So no name going into it, but had definitely the confidence that we could do it.
So what was it, it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing?
It was like a 3-day festival, yeah.
And then they announced it at the last day.
Yeah, and at the time it was in its infancy, and I was working out some kinks. So they announced like the sativa, indica, hybrid categories and best overall. So we won second place that night, and then they later that week announced the highest terpene, which ironically we won. But that was the same day I got the phone call that everything I had worked so hard over the years for had just basically been swept under the rug for me.
So, when you win that, is it like dudes just hitting you up?
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy experience, and it was really eye-opening for me at a young age. Seeing LA as a kid and going into it pre-Chalice, giving our entries and dropping them off because I was just some no-name kid.
Right.
Nobody really wanted to talk to us. It was hard to find anything to do. Every dispensary is like a very sterile and organic experience. And, whatever it was, 3 months later when we do win, now everybody wants us to do everything with them. And
that's
go
what
to
I
their
figured.
house in Beverly Hills and smoke this sesh and that. And it just in its entirety painted with everything going on in my life at the time, just like a very negative, almost jaded perspective on the industry. It's like if you're somebody, everybody wants you involved in everything, but if you don't have a name but all the proper intentions, nobody wants to listen to you. Right.
And did you have a problem with winning that and all that attention, like fueling an ego, and were you pretty good and just been like whatever?
I guess it all collapsed so quickly.
Oh, that's right.
That there really wasn't much of an ego to capture.
Yeah.
And I'm sure growing up I was always kind of hot-headed and had an ego because as this weed thing developed, me being so interested in it and these older guys kind of bring me into their grows, I always had good weed all the time.
Right.
It wasn't smoking brick weed like everybody else. So I just always had that mentality like I got it.
Yeah.
But quickly learned that that's maybe not the right way to walk around.
Yeah.
The whole experience with Chalice, like I kind of being the ultimate high as a young kid in the cannabis industry, and then so quickly it all crashing and really seeing the true colors of the people around me, and this was all so much to take in that I think it really just humbled me in my life experience, not only in cannabis but just in the way I navigate everything, and it created like an urge for like genuine connection versus just kind of the hype of things.
Yeah, just hoping that some dude's gonna shout you out and you're gonna seem like the man for a minute.
Yeah, I'm not looking for 15 minutes of fame here. Like I'm just looking for a stable lifestyle.
Right, totally. In it for what everyone, it's used so much about right reasons or whatever. But when you so they just came in and took all your shit.
Yeah, it was a really interesting scenario how it unfolded. So being a young dumbass kid, thought that not having a lease on the building, I was protecting myself and doing it right if it came to it. We had the medical cards
because you could just run.
Or had the thought and confidence that our medical cards were enough to let us operate how we wanted to, because there was no law that said how we could extract or whatever.
Right.
So, at the time I just thought I was invincible, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was super humbling.
Yeah, big time.
They took everything that day, and I got a phone call from one of the kids who was growing in there, and the trimmer, I guess they obviously interrogated the shit out of all those guys, and one thing led to another. Who knows who said what, and my name obviously gets dragged through the mud through everybody's mouth, and I guess at that time they started building a federal indictment case against me.
Right.
Took them somewhere like 9 to 11 months. Terrible with timelines here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that whole time period was, again, being super young, trying to deal with all these crazy emotions and things happening and uncertainties in life at the time. Like, just kind of felt like I was always looking over my shoulder for that 11 months. Didn't really have a place I could call home. There was, shit got real really quick. There was very few people who wanted to stand behind me. Lots of people were telling me, just lose my number until you figure it out or whatever it was. And, it hit me hard. And it was super uncertain for that whole 9 to 11 months. And, the concept of they're probably going to bite me in the ass was always there. And, one day hiking in the woods, I just got a phone call. I just bought a new car. Thought it was, a random call, probably the bank, financing, something to do with it. And I was a DEA agent, and basically called me and said, "Hey, there's a warrant out for your arrest. We're at your mom's house in Connecticut. Where are you?" And I had no idea what to say. I was just so, ghost white. And
what do you say?
What just hit me, bag of bricks. I was, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. And he hit me back with that. Yeah, no, it's definitely the right number. He said, Tyler Crespo, right? I said, yeah. He said, oh, talking about your lab you were operating in Rhode Island. This, you had all the facts correct. So there's a warrant out for your arrest. And it's not something you could turn around from. And I kind of just told him, I think you got the wrong number, sir. And I hung up the phone. And obviously he called me right back. And it's more, you got 24 hours to turn yourself in, and we're going to go to every property you've ever associated your name with.
They're gonna find your ass.
Yeah, and and he meant it. And at the time, it was kind of like that ultimate wake up call. It's like, you're not invincible, and okay, gotta take that one head first. There's no way to get around it. I'm not gonna let the people I love and care about, my family, be harassed about where am I all the time.
If you're all right, you're on the run. It's gonna make it worse.
Yeah, not something I wanted to even dive into. So it was really just, let's get ahead of it. So I told him I was going to call a lawyer and I'd get back to him. I figured that was the best way to do it. And instantly just looking up and calling everybody I knew who had been in any legal trouble in Rhode Island, who's the guy to call. And, ended up on John Calcagni, who's the guy to call. And, he basically was a lifesaver. He, got right on the phone and said, come down to the office, we'll figure this whole thing out. Obviously that was the only priority in my life at the time. Everything was just, drop the ball and go right to his office and just kind of talked it out with him, like, hey, this is a scenario, what do I do? And he was straight up. He said, just shut the fuck up, put me on retainer. Got that out of the way, and he's top dog in Rhode Island, and he was able to figure out calling the same DEA agent. And rather than them looking for me, he just told them I'd turn myself in the next day or whatever. And, figured it out to turn myself in, get released on my own recognizance, but pretrial supervision basically that day. So went to court not knowing what was going on. Lawyer's like, the guy told me you're going to get out today, but who knows? He's like, they could have just said that to get you in here. Like, but we're going to get ahead of this one, just fight it where we can. You were under the impression you're doing it right to the best of your ability. Took the classes correctly in Colorado, pay attention to it. It wasn't just, some stoner open blasting on the back of hills.
Right.
So he was confident we could get ahead of it with the landscape of medical cannabis at the time or whatever. So it's just went turn myself in, and luckily they let me out and basically got signed up for probation, pretrial supervision that day. So it was sayonara to smoking weed and every involvement with it. So
they obviously drug tested you.
Yeah, it became a daily occurrence. Almost. Yeah, for the first 3 weeks it was daily reports to the office in Massachusetts, because that's closest to where I was living. It ironically worked in my favor that I was trying to move to Maine simultaneously. I always had that hunch that maybe they were looking for me, but the intention was come to Maine no matter what. So I had actually leased a house in Portland, ironically enough, from a police officer. And since the lease was in place before I turned myself in, I was able to switch the whole pretrial thing up to Portland, and it gave me actually a good idea or good position to start fresh almost. Me and, my significant other, I guess my better half, she's stuck with me through all this crazy shit, you know, and really was the one of the very few, you know, in my family that just, you know, bootstrapped it with me throughout all the ups and downs. And yeah, she moved up here with me, and it was just like, you know, restart life essentially. You know, I'm on probation. There was no intention of really getting too heavily hands-on in cannabis. It was more like just ride this case out, see what the hands dealt. We didn't know if it was going to take 2 months or 2 years or whatever it was. So we just, Portland was the lease was in Portland. I was coming up here anyways with the intention of getting involved in cannabis, but that, you know, that wrench in the plans just obviously wasn't just a hurdle to jump over.
Hell no.
Yeah.
So you can't smoke weed.
Yeah, just moved up to Portland. Can't smoke weed. I guess this was 2016.
Yeah.
About around April 2016. And moving to Maine, my probation officer, pretrial supervision officer, was not fond of me from the rip, and
he didn't like you.
It was a chick. She was just, I wasn't having it. I was smoking so much at the time, like just an obscene amount of flower and concentrates that it took like 6 months for me to give clean piss tests. So
6 months.
Yeah, so the entire first 6 months of pretrial supervision, they basically thought I was just lying to them, smoking the whole time. So it just was a uphill battle, you know. So
how much do you think you were smoking a day?
Probably at least a half ounce, and then probably like a gram or so of concentrate every day.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy duty.
That's
blistered. Yeah, I mean, but I've been smoking cannabis since I was 10, 12 years old.
Yeah,
you know, it's something that just I love, so it wasn't like trying to overconsume. No, it's more just something that just happened.
That's wild.
Yeah. So and I guess it bonded to the fat cells in my body or whatever, and just it lingered heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was doing everything I possibly could. I was drinking more water than you could imagine. I was going to the gym to try to sweat it out.
Right.
Drinking ergot teas to do body flushes, going the holistic approach for all this shit. Just really genuinely trying to be like, I want to get above this. Want to just get on this lady's good side. Because she was not making my life easy. And
no.
It was 3 mandatory drug tests a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I was reporting.
To Mass?
No, to Portland.
Okay.
Yeah, I was able to transfer it all up here. But then on top of that, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it was at least one random inspection weekly. So
she'd go to you, or you have to go?
She'd come to me randomly.
Yeah.
At my house, and it would always be super early in the morning because I was working a full-time job.
Yeah.
So it'd be like 4:30 or 5:30 in the morning. She'd be like banging on my door. My dog's going crazy just to give me a piss test once a week on top of the 3 times I was already going.
Fuck.
Yeah, for an extended period of time, pretty much. It was brutal. And, so like with the stress of what might happen, and I mean the case was pretty severe. It wasn't like I got arrested for a pound of weed. I mean, they were making an example out of me.
Yeah.
There was a lot of volume. There was a lot of spent material that we were processing. We really were just collecting the, who knows, compost or whatever.
Right.
And to them, that was all weed. So a 50-gallon drum of processed trim at the time was, to them, whatever.
It's just basically the same as weed.
Yeah. Didn't look good in my favor. And then concentrate at the time, on the federal level, there's no like depiction clearly of what concentrate is.
Right.
BHO or anything of the sort. It's just manufacturing an illicit substance. So it boils down same to like a meth lab.
Yeah.
Which wasn't in my favor.
No, not at all.
How they sentenced concentrate was based on cannabis volume. Some law that was written
like
way back when, they would take every gram of concentrate and multiply it by 50, and that's the weight in cannabis you'd be
50 grams for every gram.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the 20 pounds of concentrate that they took, weighed up to some asinine number, up to a metric ton, essentially.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So the case was nothing to, bat an eye at. There was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So up here, the original intention was just like get a job, be reformed, and battle through it. And cannabis is a passion, and it'll always be there. And I'll watch the industry unfold. So I was, got a full-time job, it sucked, and on top of it,
what were you doing?
I was originally started canvassing with the Maine People's Alliance. It was really the only job I could find. Like, having that conviction at the time, I mean, and you background check or Google my name, it was like damn near impossible to secure any job other than flipping burgers. And it just was an uneasy environment.
Absolutely.
The leases were hard to find, so everything was very tricky.
Yeah.
So I was walking around door to door all over the state, just canvassing, getting political data. It sucked, you know. It was just painstaking.
Right.
But needed to show I was doing something. That's what I was up to. And on top of it, you know, the job interest were more on the career side, or, you know, being an electrician or something of the sort. So I enrolled in community college just to get some kind of bearing at the time.
Yeah, totally. Just trying to have a plan.
Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of what I was forced into, the hand I was dealt, I guess, first being up here that 2016 year. And I guess cannabis has been super beneficial as a medicine to me and the people around me throughout all of this. And, you know, there's been lots of endeavors where it's severely helped our lives. And, you know, my girlfriend's been in severe accidents, been the great medicine for her. So being in Maine, we needed to figure out some sort of cannabis for her.
Right.
You know, the local options weren't quite cutting it. And,
no.
You know, with the background and experience, the only option was get her caregiver card or her patient card so she could start growing. You know, we had to find somewhere that wasn't at my house so she could figure out on her own and could kind of coach her through, which was a chore on its own.
Oh yeah, it is. Teaching anybody, especially someone that lives with you, and you know, you have a different relationship with, and you can't, you know, sometimes be as hard on. I know how that is.
Yeah, but she's been a rock through it all. Without her, you know, none of where I'm at today would, you know, I wouldn't be here.
Right. No, I know exactly where you're at. Like there's just a friggin' it's just buoys, and like you as well as me would just be like, oh, we're just gonna do this 24 hours a day, you know, or something like that, you know.
Exactly.
Whatever, keeping basically, you know, giving you that time to just chill out, because I'm like you, like, if we say we had a business together, who's gonna go more?
Yeah.
And then it's gonna go to the point where somebody gets
you burn a candle at both times.
Sick. You know what I mean? And so one thing I wanted to ask is, like, when you were dealing with, what was it, were you parole officer or whatever she was?
Yeah,
in the system, do you think that once they really felt that you were trying to do better, did they help work with you more, or was it just like, this guy, you know?
Not at all. To be honest, it was just constant pressure and stress. It was, you know, every other day, reporting, communications. I actually maxed out their drug testing program, which was like 172 drug tests, which typically extends a 2-year period of pretrial or probation in something like 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, she was up my ass.
That's kind of fucked up.
It was extremely excessive.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the time, she didn't make it easy. You know, she'd call random inspections to my house, but she basically searched my whole house frequently.
So what I would chalk that up to is someone who hates their fucking job.
Yeah, so it was interesting and eye-opening again. She ended up getting pregnant and went on maternity leave. And it worked in my favor so much because it was simultaneously at the time where, like, we really needed to figure out a cannabis medicine option for my girlfriend.
Right.
And the new pretrial officer was super laid back, and he asked when he first came to the house, like, oh, does anybody consume cannabis here? And I felt more comfortable at the time, comfortable with him. And I said, yeah, you know, my girlfriend's a medical patient. She does smoke cannabis. And he said, oh, it's fine. It just needs to be locked up and, you know, stored away from you. You can't access it and you can't smoke. And, and he asked about a few other things as far as drug use and all that. And I was super transparent. Like, I don't do drugs. That's not my interest. And, you know, he was cool. I was able to bring up CBD because that's what I was really intrigued by at the time. But it was so new. There was not much facts behind how it would affect a drug test. You know, if I could get some full spectrum CBD, would I fail a drug test? So I was staying away from it, and I asked him his perspective. I said, hey, what if I started vaping CBD? And he said, as long as you don't fail a drug test. I said, well, it's from hemp, but it all says 99.9 and no THC. And then I explained, you know, the federal limit being 0.003 or whatever it is. If I failed because of that trace amount, would that affect me? And he said, you know what, give it a shot. So I went and bought some CBD and, you know, was able to dab for the first time in a year or so. It was interesting, but I felt more comfortable with him, and he kind of painted the landscape that Maine is friendly to cannabis. You know, although that first few months was a rocky road, it was that was really more painting the perspective of the federal government. The federal government is still not friendly with cannabis.
No way.
So, and that reassured that presence in my life, you know, where it's like,
what we're doing, what we've always been doing, being at the cutting edge of the industry, is a gray and rocky road. You know, although now we're fortunate enough for it to be much more outlined.
Yeah.
You know, thankful to OMP for that. Although it is a pain dealing with them.
Right.
The regulation's a good thing because it gives us what we can and can't do.
Yeah, and it's gotten more like, when I first pulled my license, it was so gray. Like, it's like, and then no one's gonna answer you straight. You can't call the police department. You know.
Yeah, you're always at risk, and you know that's always that constant battle. But hopefully, as things progress, it dwindles more.
And I'm the dude that reads something like a law, and I'm like, oh. Well, technically, this is this.
Exactly. I was that guy.
Yeah, me too. It's like, 30 mature plants. What does that mean? Yeah. What does mature mean? I would always ask that to the inspector. What does mature mean? Flowering. Well, week 2, week 1, that's not mature. I can't harvest that. Oh, well, you know, I guess it, you know, and then you can play the game.
They're unsure,
If you want, you know, if like...
Yeah, and even that element's matured in a sense where they'll be more clear, give you where, you know, a more clear-cut idea of where there is leniency versus, you know, back then it was just a medical card and you could do whatever you wanted with it essentially, but the cops are going to fuck with you anytime they could get.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was, for me, it was a really weird thing because at the time I was working for a company doing HVAC, and I brought up to my dad, I'm like, hey, look, I'm thinking about, like, I'm not one for working for somebody. It just doesn't work for me. I was like, I want to do this. I want to grow. And he's like, dude, I'm a fucking cop. Because my dad was a cop.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, I want to rent your garage. And he's like, is it legal? I said, yeah, it's legal. So he talked to some of his buddies, and they're like, dude, it's fucking legal. He asked his police chief, he's like, is he licensed? Yeah. I don't give a shit.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then it was like, keep it, whatever your thing is, grow it here. I don't give a shit, but keep it the fuck away from the house. You know what I mean? Just if you meeting up with patients and shit, away. Because it used to be a lot of parking lot plays. You know, it sucked.
Yeah, it's funny how it's matured so much, but anyone who was around in the culture per se back then versus the industry now knows those hardships we dealt with as far as inconveniences and
my hardship was, you know, how in the beginning it was so tight knit, like you to be successful you got to know so many people, and it was so little people that I was growing really good weed at the time, but I was still the cop's kid, you know, and it was so hard for me to gain trust, to be like, dude, this isn't the way it is. I just want to grow my weed and sell my weed.
Yeah, understandable.
You know, it was so tough to get in.
Yeah, that's such an interesting perspective, because I guess I came from the total opposite side of it, and then got dealt, I dealt my own hand with, pushed the envelope a little too far, but just seeing and kind of probably feeling that same response of while dealing with this whole case, so many people are so reserved, and it's very understandable, you know. Just looking at it from your perspective and then my perspective, how we can relate on both getting that isolation factor.
Yeah, it's like you know, you got dudes that aren't fucking with you, but you know, like I'm the type of person, when someone grows good weed and they bring me good weed, we're talking about weed right now.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about you as a person or a dad or a fucking baseball player.
100%. And even that, it's like, as long as you're a good person, I can get behind anything you're doing.
I don't give a shit. Yeah, as long as your mind's in the right place. But the second you do the one thing that's like, oh, there's the thing.
Yep. Questionable ethics.
So many times it's like, and you know, the guys that talk it up too much, they're like, oh, you know, we only do this and we only do that, and you're like, all right, well, I'm just gonna wait for the one slip up, and it's like, oh, yeah, you just say it. The dudes that are doing it are just like, here's my fucking weed, dude.
Yeah,
check it out, you know. Yeah. See what it's all about.
Proof's in the puffin'.
Right.
Always.
So there must have been a time when you were like, all right, we can start growing.
Yeah, so I guess talking to that PO was really more like, all right, Maine is friendly with this shit. This is the law. As a patient, we can grow this much. As a caregiver, we can grow this much. As, there was still a lot of room to play with in gray areas, but it was defined that we can have a grow. So then began the struggle to find commercial space to rent to even start this grow, And
that was when was this? 16?
16, yeah, end of 16.
Yeah.
Beginning of 17, probably.
Portland area.
Yeah, Portland area. It was just an uphill battle because everybody was trying to do the same thing I was.
Right.
Being the outsider, definitely frowned upon from locals a little bit, which...
Investors were starting to warm up. I mean, building owners were starting to warm up to it. Like, they knew a dude that rented to a grower.
Yeah.
And he's either really good or really fucking bad.
Yeah, it was interesting, and just played that card game, I guess. Just looked at this spot, looked at that spot. This one had this niche. This landlord wanted way too much money. Whatever it was. Or this building needed way more money than I had at the time to invest in it, with all that went on. And that raid, they basically took any liquidity I had in life, any cannabis or hash or concentrates. I was living in the lab, unfortunately, when I wasn't resolving my situation in California. So it was really like everything I had was just taken. So there wasn't a foundation to play with. So a lot of these real estate agents at the time looked at me as like a young kid from out of state, coming from California and Connecticut. He's got money. He's a dope grower.
Right.
Let's bet him over a barrel. So it was really hard. And, at the time, there's a lot of people moving to Maine or within Maine, just getting up and going, wanting to get out of their garage or something and start growing. So it was a competitive marketplace, and it pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And we found a building kind of where I thought was the woods, which wasn't really, out in Gray. So, it was interesting. And we did a lot of work to it. It was a dead-end road, and back at the end of the dead end was this peculiar warehouse building, tall grass all around it, total deferred maintenance type of situation.
Oh yeah.
And it was the only thing I could find, and the only rent that made sense, and basically just super naive again. I was like, let's do this one. I had the grow experience at that time, so I was confident in that, but I really had no idea of commercial scale.
Right.
I understood scale and cannabis scale, but not running a business at all, and no concept of indoor cultivation as far as large scale. In Rhode Island we were playing around with 8, 10, 12 lights, nothing crazy. Garage. So for me, I was just like, warehouse, I know I could grow weed in there, let's do it. And it was a rabbit hole we went down, and not enough electric, and zoning with the town and permits, and you need pre-approval, and it was all a really good experience because I kept transparency at the very forefront of it, coming off of my current scenario and just how it all unfolded. Transparency was huge. So pulling the permits with the town was a little bit of a uneasy feeling, but Gray, where we were at, was super friendly at the time. It's like, sure, you want to grow weed, cool, you get your certification, give me a copy of it, good to go. So we put some building permits in, thought it was going to be some, frame a couple walls, nice, cheap, and easy. Really didn't think of groundwork, electrical work, security, and
that's all shit you think of way too late. It's always like, another 5-10 grand. It's like, fuck. Can we do this any other way?
Exactly. I thought the couple grand I had was going to get me a lot further than it did.
Yeah, and it doesn't. You just like like you're probably like me. You sit up at night making these plans, making everything. Okay, we're good to go. I got enough money. We'll cover it. Like this will pay for that, and that will pay for this, and then, fuck.
It all hits you at once.
Oh yeah, you're out here in this town off of this street. You need this. It's just like some stuff I've learned. Like I took over a grow and never had grown with city water. And I don't run any sort of filters.
Yeah, so that was probably a whole can of worms on its own.
So literally, it was like with the beds. I'm running chlorine into those bitches, and it's like.
That's killing all your
flatten
soil population.
And I'm like, what's going on? What am I fucking up? What are we doing here?
Brutal.
It's just like
the easy things you learn along the way, though, that are something so small, so pivotal in the large scale.
And at the end of the time, I'm looking at my wife like, there's been probably 10 times where I'm like, I hope I can push through, but financially sometimes you get down to that end of that stick, and you're like. There's only a certain amount, like, you have to close the doors when you're... How much are you going to borrow? How much are you going to borrow? And then,
I've been firm on not ever trying to borrow.
Me too.
Something
I think that, my dad instilled a good work ethic in me, and whatever. I saw his hustle to sustain a family and a small business.
Yeah.
But I guess fuck, I was going with that.
Borrowing.
Oh yeah, he they took the house at the end of, like, his whole work experience, so it didn't really work in his favor. And I kind of at a young age instilled, just, if I can't financially pull it off, it ain't happening.
Right. Yeah.
So it was more put me back in the position I was in California, where I was rice and beans and very little financial income for that long term. Just looking at it like, we'll invest everything we got and it will return.
It's like I tell people, they think I'm foolish, because the hardest, most challenging times, you're gonna look back and you're like, that was the shit.
Yeah,
that's what makes building. You wait, whether it's crops dying because you're trying something new, and there was times, probably not for you and really not for me anymore, but in the beginning, when that one experiment hinged your success, if that crop didn't come through.
So many times I've ran into that,
and it's like, wake up tomorrow, do it all fucking over again, it will be okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How many times I don't know if this happened for you, but a lot of the growers can relate, like CMP shuts your shit off and you gotta call and just be like, I hope I could push it a couple more days so I could,
Yeah, I've got that disconnect notice many a times before. It's something I think every grower coming from a grassroots approach has probably faced, or at least had the fear of facing.
Yeah.
And that initial build up here really showed light on problems like that.
Right.
Me coming into it outside, we were always kind of struggling with that, but I just thought it was because it was that long-term investment. We'd invest, every January, we wouldn't see it back till January the next year.
Right.
And that's why indoors was appealing to me, because I thought, this perpetual harvest, we'll get there, and every 8 weeks it's a magic number. We'll pull our harvest, and we can do it, and it's way easier than outside. It's just a different perspective that I learned. May or may not be true.
It's one of those things that I try to tell people, like, you're growing something that does not want to be inside.
Yeah.
And you're also battling the elements, because you have a building that's outside, you have HVAC that's outside, you learn these things that, like, oh, it's 90 outside, either you build your build out right and they can handle it, or you put your lights on at night and now you're working at night.
Yeah.
It's like, in the beginning, that's what you got to kind of figure out, and that's what sets people apart, is that problem solving. I feel like a lot of growers are entitled to their time.
Yes.
This is my time, I need to have drinks with my family tonight. It's like,
the plants never stop growing, so you're really on their time.
And what I love about Maine right now is the bar. It's like, oh, you see fucking this from this guy.
Now everybody's giving it their all. It seems like the bar is just moving.
It's
quickly.
moving, and I think it's the best thing, because these guys, for so long I was the dude doing 10, 15 hours a day, and weed prices didn't really show your work. For a while, it was kind of like everybody's at the same price.
Yeah.
And now with the stores, it's like, oh, you can see that hard work. Either these guys are going to put in the 15-hour day, or they're going to take nothing for their weed, and now they're closing their doors because it's only worth $800.
Yeah.
I love seeing that. The laziness get just swept right off.
Yeah, the riffraff will always, kind of pan itself out.
Yeah, and it's a little refreshing, because now the guys, I'll say, coming to the top, with the products that you're really seeing taking off, you're like, shit, they're killing it, because otherwise there's no, I feel like Maine consumers are so smart now, just because I don't knowledge on them.
To me, it's super inspiring seeing the people around us kind of push the envelope a little bit and kind of level up in my eyes. It's like, cool, they could do it, we could all do it if we put our mind to it and, work those crazy days. And those are the curveballs, the crazy days that growing up you don't expect, or getting into it you don't expect. And that first build out, I definitely didn't expect, just these crazy long hours. And simultaneously, I was still building, or still working that full-time job, and still on that pre-trial, and still going to school, trying to get certification for electrical, and just wearing so many hats at the time. It was so stressful, and getting the build going with every last dollar. It was like there was no other way for it to work. It was either gonna work or gonna fail, and it was just a matter of putting those hours in.
That first building, was it fairly successful?
Yeah, it had its ups and downs, but it definitely turned out to be a successful endeavor. And again, like everything, a huge learning experience, whether it was, tuning our craft or figuring out turning what was medical cultivation for just, ourselves to then, pay specific by patients as a designated caregiver, and then just watch it develop. So it grew as time unfolded and learned a ton. A business partnership going into it originally to try to help with the workload, and that had its own can of worms, and kind of figured that out as it went along. And
it's one of those things where even from the beginning I've always known that I want something more than, and I'm not shitting on people with 10-12 lighters. I'm just saying I've always known I want to produce more, and I want to push myself to see what I can do. From the beginning, everybody that's worked for me, I said, look, you bust your ass, you do what I do, you're going to own part of this fucking business. I mean, that's just important to me. If you're going to be there side by side on those nights when HVAC's not working or we're there till 3, I can't write you a paycheck that...
No, that's the incentive that's needed in the garden, especially on the grassroots end of it and through the growing pains.
Right.
So if you're willing to throw that time at it and that sweat equity and the literal blood, sweat, and tears that we're grinding to build these companies, those people should be rewarded and
and it's like they a lot of the times all these, like, whether it's trimmers or whoever's working, they just see raw pounds. They never see the bills and what goes on, and it's like they think that you're fucking stashing millions of dollars away all the time. And it's like, dude, you guys don't know how much you really cost.
There's a skewed perception among, in and out of the industry, just the sheer volume of profit that's made. Everybody thinks, oh, you grow cannabis, you're a millionaire, no matter what scale it is.
Yeah.
If you got 4 lights in your basement or 400 lights in a commercial warehouse, everybody thinks that you grow dope, so you got extra money.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. And when you're trying to stay ahead of it and do it right, you're not making nearly what these guys doing the Wild West shit still are. You know what I mean? I see them, but I'm like, that's cool that sometimes you get a little jealous because they're capitalizing on their dollars, but they're not in it for 15 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's just that long-term perspective. You could tell the guys that are, you sacrifice that money right now or in the past to build this long-term established relation with the legal market.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe jealousy for financial reasons from the Wild West kind of black market guys, but I don't look at it that way. There's so much money to be made on the long term. Like,
there is.
You're willing to put the hours in, put the legwork in, and establish that brand, that long-lasting name, household name.
Right.
It'll come.
Yeah,
and
it will.
I think those guys that are short-sighted right now, that are chasing trying to relate a white market to a black market value, and they're chasing the what ifs on the black market, or that crazy high numbers, and chasing a drought that's on a black market. There shouldn't ever be a drought on a legal white market at a dispensary. A retail consumer should always be able to walk into a cannabis store and there should be cannabis on the shelf.
And you should be proud that it's your fucking brand.
Yeah, so to relate the two as far as financially, it's kind of naive, and it doesn't paint a picture of an accurate marketplace.
Right.
So, those guys chasing those higher numbers will find out probably the hard way that that's not a long-term play. And when the market is oversaturated, like it's played out in many other mature markets, the stores that are getting taken advantage right now paying those absorbent fees because there's a drought.
Yeah.
They're gonna turn that rate back around and say, "Oh, market's saturated. I don't need your weed unless it's $1,000 a pound." And that's gonna be a rude awakening for these guys chasing the extra points right now.
It's like, I feel very fortunate to do business with friends, like good friends. You know what I mean? It's like anything's just a simple conversation. It's not about, like I know that if something's brought up, it's for the right reason. It's not because somebody wants to, make a little more or dig a little more. So, every time I bring weed to Hive, Bobby's like, how much do you want? I was like, the price isn't changing, dude.
Yeah,
it's not going up.
The game.
It's not fucking going up. But when fall comes around,
don't go down. I say the same thing. It's building those long-term loyal relationships that especially in a marketplace and community like Maine that is small.
Yeah.
That's what's going to last. That's what's going to keep it small.
That's what I keep telling people. It pisses me off. It's like, you want to keep these dudes from out of state out of here. These big corporate companies support your local store.
Yeah.
Stop trying to go get 3.
Yeah.
Support them. Now you're all fighting together.
Yeah, I mean, and you work together on it, and you find that fair market value, which I think in other mature established markets, California, Colorado, maybe a more realistic approach. Good quality indoor on the legal system in metric is $2,022 a pound. I think that's pretty much where it should end up here, and instead of riding the ups and downs of what could be the marketplace, I think just setting that fair market value now and building the relationships with the shops is the smart move. And I think the guys who do that will much farther outlive the ones chasing the high numbers now.
Yeah, it's just like you said, building that relationship of like who is your company, who those guys that always are like, oh, getting that extra 100 200 real quick. It's like, it's just so, I don't know, I just think it's fucked up. It's like, what does that get you? What does that get you? Now by me keeping my word, Bobby's gonna be like, now I gotta buy more. You know what I mean? That's just the way a good person would think about it. Like,
yeah, and on the flip side too, it's just by you keeping your word that they're gonna want to keep theirs. So
right.
when there is many more options on the shelf or on the table for them as a purchaser, it's gonna come down more to the relationship than it is the financial end. So if they can get some pounds cheaper at your quality, or they could continue mending a long-term relationship, as a provider, you'd hope that they choose to continue mending it. I think that they will, specifically your case with Hive.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna pan out that way.
Yeah,
When the 60 brands right now that are rushing because they're all sold out and every store wants weed, once the stores get their own grows styled in, or
exactly,
their steady providers, scale up, because we're all struggling right now to provide. So as our scaling catches up with the market, it will become oversaturated.
Yeah, it's not going to just maintain. It's going to go way over.
Yeah, and when it spills over, those long-term relations are the only thing that'll keep the small guy afloat, because the big guy at that point has the leverage. They'll crush us. Their production costs will always be cheaper, because
always
scaling the 0.5% difference will kill a guy like you or I.
Yeah.
But with millions and millions of dollars, that 0.5% difference, they'll still make margins while they shut us down.
Yeah.
And then once we're out of business, they can raise the price.
Of course.
So, those business relations are where we need to focus as like small producers and craft growers.
Yeah, and it's a thing, because you see the loudest voices in the industry, and those dudes are the ones doing other shit. Keep this out of here, and like, dude, you're still doing the thing like a cowboy. You know what I mean? Like, support somebody. Those stores are gonna fight way more to keep those people out than your grower is. Your grower's heads down, in the grow most of the time. But the store, they're like, dude, if that dude moves in and he's selling $100 ounces, if the customer isn't informed well, that's the other thing that the store can do, is like, you might, go buy that $100 ounce, but this is what you might get. You know what I mean? Yeah. And once, like, it's crazy how long weed's been in Maine, and I'll take, buddies give me weed, everybody gives me weed all the time, and we always trade. Yep. And I'll take, some bud, and I'll give it to a dude that I know is smoking some shit, and he smokes it, and he's like, wow. I'm like, you still haven't had? Like, almost every store has good fucking weed.
Yeah, how can you not find it at this point?
It's just crazy. It's like, where do I get it?
I think consumer education is huge, though, and at this point, with the demand for product and so many people being new consumers, they're just going into a shop looking for whatever, and they talk to a bud tender who's new to the scene or industry, and they might just get led down, smoke this strain because it's appealing to one person. They never really get those bangers that are right in front of them.
Yeah, and it's so hard because there's no real good hard info. You're just relying on the dude behind the desk, and I tell a lot of people, and maybe it's like bias or whatever, but like, if your store that you go to just resells, they're not going to have the whole scope on the process. If they've never, maybe the dude's grown for 5 years and then he opened a store, whatever, that's fine. But if he's never done that, it's hard, like, Because like you're probably like me, you'll look at weed and be like, I ain't smoking that.
Yeah. So cannabis being so multifaceted, it's like only the guys that have been in the trenches, like you're saying, on the grow side, and then seen it to fruition all the way to the sales side, can even comprehend where consumer education should begin.
Right.
And it's really hard to articulate that, and then it's even harder to have somebody new to the industry or, you know, some young bud tender articulate that to a new consumer.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of steps down the line that right now the connoisseur mature market is mainly the people who have been in the trenches or the growers, because we know what to look for in a specific product. Like you say, you could look at some weed and be like, not really feeling it, or take one hit off a joint and you know, that's the last one from that grow, period. And that's something that most consumers won't maybe ever know. You know, they see something that someone they trust or a friend of theirs says, this is the best around, you know, they wholeheartedly believe that, and it's not that they think they have the best, it's that they just haven't seen a broad selection, don't know, you know, how diverse cannabis can really get.
True. You know, you like, I really appreciate when someone puts some shit in front of me and I'm like, damn, you know, like, fuck, you know, like that shit that you just showed me, like, I mean, that's really, really good. And I love that, you know what I mean? I love, because I see so much of the other sometimes. It's like, when I was working behind the desk at the store, you know, that I helped build, it was like every day someone's coming in, hey, you need weed. You know, one day this dude rolls in and he's in a wife beater or whatever, and he has just a Ziploc bag, which is whatever, I mean, however you want to sell it, I don't give a shit, but he like throws it on the desk, and I go, what the fuck is that? And he's like, that's weed, you know, and he looks at the shelf, he's like, it's all just weed. And I said, dude, I'm not buying it. He's like, well, I was like, the question got asked, how much do you want for it? Well, I get $2,300 on the black market. And I'm like, dude, you fucking just walk out, because I don't care. This isn't what we're doing here.
It doesn't correlate.
You know what I mean? And it's like, a lot of growers just stay in their circle. They don't want to go out and be like, oh, that motherfucker's killing it, I need to do some shit.
No, and the staying in your circle, I understand, respect. I kind of live that way as well.
Yeah.
But it comes from the culture side of it and the back end of it, where we were never able to expose our hand or get behind our product. And, you know, especially for me, when I tried it, fucking bit me in the ass right from the rip.
Right in the beginning.
You know, so I understand that tentative approach from certain growers, but I think that stunts the potential to get to that world-class cannabis. 'Cause a lot of growers, just because they're in their local demographic, you know, they're growing the good weed. I mean, it's weed, it grows pretty easily on its own.
Yeah.
You grow some indoors, it's going to look pretty no matter what.
Right.
It's really more, does it smoke good, taste good, good resin, you know. So a lot of people just get caught up in like, oh, their indoors is the best that they've seen, and, you know, their group stays the best growers in the area, but they don't open their eyes to the potential of what's out there, you know.
That's what more or less what I'm talking about, is like being, you know, going out there and seeing what's out there. You can't just
I mean, there's cannabis all around the planet. You know, what we're doing in Maine is great, and there's so many world-class growers in Maine. There's
it's crazy.
So much great cannabis up here, but this is only, you know, one small dot on the radar up here. You know, we're just Maine. You know, there's the entire country, and then there's the entire world. There's cannabis all over it. So to get so close-minded and like, oh, you know, the best of weed is, you know, what we've seen, you and I as seasoned, you know, veterans per se, is still just the tip of the iceberg. You know,
it's still
where's cannabis going to be in 10 years?
I tell everybody, I say, you know, you can bust my balls, you can say whatever you want about my shit. I'm never going to keep up with the 4-lighter. He's going to blow me out of the water. You know, he takes whoever, they take our grow method and they put that into 6 plants. Dude, put a bag next to, like, he should smoke me. He should, and I would buy it. I don't give a shit.
I've always kind of said that too, like, growing cannabis is a full-time job. Like, it doesn't matter if you have 6 lights in your house or 4 lights in a tent, or if, you know, again, 400 lights, whatever it may be. If you're passionate about it, you're going to be in your garden all day.
Yeah.
You know, you're just going to give that much more attention to that fewer plants, and you're going to get those bangers.
Right. And you're going to know them. And it's like, I tell everybody, I said, you know, say you take the comfortable amount to run by yourself. Like, I know some dudes that can do like caregiver card, 30 plants, run it by themselves. Depending on how they do it, they could do a good job. But, you scale that up. Say you scale up to 100 lights, and now you need an employee. Like, you're not just adding in one thing. It's like a trim team, employee, build out, maintenance, all this stuff that people just want to, like, they don't think about. They just think about that. That.
Your time gets spread very thin as you really start to scale into the industry. But, the time is to do it now where we can, and the door is open. But I totally get where you're coming from with the, you wear so many hats as you scale. 4 lights, you can focus on just growing, and there's no business end to it. The bud that comes out of it, you probably smoke most of it anyways or whatever.
Yeah.
Scaling that up is its whole another bag of tricks, and licensing, permitting,
finding a good help.
Yeah.
Just that. It's like you can have dude roll in that, I've been wanting to do this my whole life. It's like, have you wanted to do it as bad as you have or as I have? Or do you just want to say that to me? Because when it comes time to 7 days a week, mostly when we first start somebody, it's 5. Yep. Give them the weekend off. And then I want to see, do you want to come in and see what's going on Saturday and Sunday? You know what I mean? Do you have that in you? Even if it's 2 hours or 3 hours just to check, do you care? Or are you too busy, nursing a hangover or whatever? Or say nurse your hangover, show up.
Yeah.
Say, hey, dude, I want to see what's going on. To me, I'm like, all right, that dude's in.
Yeah, it's, you show that dedication from the rep, it definitely correlates in the long run.
But it's so hard.
You don't find that frequently.
But it's like, it's how we're trained as people. We're like a hybrid farmer, business owner, because those farmers know sun up, sundown.
Yeah.
Get it in. But, we're kind of inside, but it's the same deal. And people don't think it. People want 9 to 5. If you want 9 to 5, you don't get the rewards of 5 to 5, 7 days a week, because when someone comes in and they show that, like, they literally are family now. Like, you are supporting the heartbeat of the company. Like, you now deserve all of the rewards that we all get.
Yeah, I think that's that long-term goal, and it's interesting to me. I've struggled severely finding good help over the years, and learned it's been difficult to bring family and friends into the puzzle as far as labor goes, and
it's hard.
Yeah, it's had its set of hurdles and boundaries there, but the people who have risen and showed their dedication, it's not even a labor thing at this point. It's a team thing. So
yeah.
Those few people who are there for the long haul, they're, we know it. They're in.
It's like sometimes, like I'll hit the kid that works out for me, Corey. He owns part of the business now, but I'll hit him up and be like, yo, what's up? Well, I'm just, taking leaves. I'm like, yo, it's 8:00 at night. Why didn't you tell me? Well, you need to have your time. I'm like, sometimes it's like, motherfucker. It's like,
that's awesome. That's it's concrete guy though.
It is, and it's like one of those things where like, I need 4 days. You got this? Yeah, I got it. You need it? No problem. Yeah. Whatever you need. It's like,
you got to build those give and take relationships if you want long-term people around, where it's not so much a 9 to 5 like you were saying. It's more a in or out. You're either on the team or you think you want to be on a team.
And like, I'm like you, like, my mind's a million places every day. Like, I try to be as transparent as possible, and like sometimes I skip over shit and it seems, like I don't want to include them, but I'm one of those dudes you want to know. I'm down to tell you anything financially, what we're doing, how we're doing, what's next. But my mind is like so scattered where I need to be like, I need to make sure he's taking care of this, so I'm taking care of that, and sometimes it's, coming from where we came from, like, we didn't go to school to be a manager.
No, or a janitor or a farmer.
No, it's like, I'm the type of dude, I don't want to tell anybody what to do. It sounds weird to be like, when it's time to say you fucked up.
That's been a current scenario I've been just facing, is taking responsibility for not being able to articulate, what I want.
Right.
I'm a pretty particular person when it comes to my garden, and what I'm looking for out of certain meticulous things that could be easy to overlook or people don't think are important. I strive to make sure every box is checked and my situation's taken care of. So it's hard for me to articulate all the moving pieces to new help or current help. You know, I've had guys working for me for 3 years that are just now really getting the hang of how I'm doing things.
Right.
And I know a huge reason to do that with that is I'm still learning, and it's like I've got the
pushing.
SOPs dialed, but every day we're learning something new in the garden, or figuring something out, or learning from our mistakes. That's what really happens. Fuck something up or think it'll be a good idea to try something and
blow it off.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, whatever. But those are the things that I struggle to articulate to other people, like the flexibilities. While you understand your plants, you still need to keep those SOPs in line and keep that business end in check. And like you said, we never went to school for stuff like that. That's all so new, and the opportunities are endless, and it's just so much to swallow while trying to manage a garden and run the other facets of a business, staying compliant with the state. It's been juggling many hats.
Oh yeah, so many. And like now there's so many things, like when we go drop off product to the store, like I make it important to be like, if they're in the mood to talk for a minute, like I need to give them that time. It's important. They're spending money with us, they're keeping everything going for us, so like I told you before, I suck at scheduling. If Bobby wants to talk to me for an hour, I'm talking to him for an hour. Everything else, kind of, unless it's my family or my grow, you're taking a back seat for a minute because I'm talking to my fucking dude that pays my bills.
It's important to build those relations, and it's something that I'm been scaling quickly over the last 3 years or so, and figuring all these things out. It's something that I'm trying to strive more towards, those cultured relations with our providers and suppliers and whatnot. But managing so much time is
I'm really bad. I'm really bad at like cutting shit short and being a dick, just being like, dude, I gotta go.
Yeah, so am I. So it tends to just be like,
take it from the next person.
Long conversations.
Yeah, you take it from the next dude.
Sorry, I'm an hour late type of deal.
Yeah.
Kind of my life a lot, and I feel bad sometimes that certain relationships I'd like to kindle more. Don't have time. Other ones get lots of attention because it organically happens that way.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a struggle.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Life is constantly unwinding, and while trying to keep up with this rapidly unfolding industry, it's like it's only so much time in a day, and
I mean, it's changing every day, and it's my job, it's your job to stay up.
Yeah, just stay aware and stay, make sure we're doing everything we can to not only be on the legal side, in the cutting edge of compliance, but on the backside, the cutting edge of the industry, making sure our genetics are current with the current marketplace, or our quality controls there, looking for the next. Like all these things are full-time jobs in their own, and people like you or me probably wear many of those hats.
Oh yeah. I'm just like like Corey. He's so dialed in on taking care of what we have now, which is really important, keeping that going. And I'm like, dude, we gotta try this strain, and like he's like, what is like at this point he's like, if you think that there's a good one in there, it's probably some I'm always searching for some certain terpene, or just being like, if we try this, we could get this, and he's just like, I can't even fucking keep up, so just do whatever you think's gonna be good. And then it comes out, and I'm like, that's what I'm looking for. And he's like, shit, okay. It's gotten to that point where we have that ebb and flow where I'm kind of like, when I decide to try something, it's trying it. It's not like dipping my toes in. I'm like, we're fucking jumping in.
Yeah, do a confidence.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I'll keep doing this over here to make sure we're all good.
Yeah.
But, so now, I'm sure you're in a bigger facility.
Yeah, things have kind of unfolded over the years, so rapid expansion, and ended up selling that original farm up in Gray, and moved down to the town of Saco, and got into the property management side of things. It's something that sparks my interest, and moving into real estate.
Kind of like a landlord, or a little bit of all of it.
Yeah, a little bit of all of it. Looking to move into purchasing, developing properties in a cannabis-friendly mindset. So
like building a warehouse and then renting it?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we did. And then through that, I was able to finance building our current warehouse. So we've the one warehouse where we lease to operating caregivers, and then me and my girlfriend have our warehouse that is our business, Ripple Wellness, and what we're incubating. Hopefully, if it works out, be able to bring to the rec market and scale with our building. But yeah, so doing that little real estate situation helped fund our larger scale facility, which we've had our growing pains with as well, but are in a fluent position with.
It's the biggest pain in the ass to me when you do things. I'm sure like I try to do the right way and like deal with your bank, and they see your money, they see your cash flow for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they won't give you a fucking loan for 20 grand for, like, I just dealt with it with the truck. They're like, no. I'm like, anybody else, I could probably take $500,000 out, and you'd be like, yeah, totally, no problem. And it's like, you're bridging that gap, doing what you're doing. You're
trying to find the legal outlets where we can, our finances aren't scrutinized outside of cannabis.
Yeah.
While still maintaining a cannabis-friendly landscape.
Yeah, exactly. But you're almost giving some of those dudes a stepping stone.
Yeah.
To where it's like, you got money down? Okay, well, here's the spot.
Yeah. And, it's kind of an incubation type of thing. If you rent a space, it's typically short-term, short-lived, a year or so.
Yeah.
It's fully outfitted. There's little no investment other than rent. And then operating costs is pretty easy to level up on.
Yeah.
Hopefully that incubation period gives them a stepping stone, like you said.
Yeah.
Figure out where that next step is.
Yeah, and I mean, that's... And like, if something's fucked up, like, you know how to, like, nip it in the bud. Where, like, a normal landowner's like, that doesn't seem quite right. And you're like, oh, dude, that's not right.
Yeah. And we're doing lots of, consulting on all aspects.
Yeah.
For the growing pains I've learned over this last decade, trying to just pass them down the line to whoever wants to be involved and skip the growing pains.
Well, that's a part of my thing is like that info that so many dudes hold back. I'm like, I'm down to tell you whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah,
like,
let's share it all.
I'm gonna tell you what I do, but you're not gonna believe me. Like, a lot of guys just are like, I don't really think you do that, and I'm like, I swear to God, like, I'll tell you exactly what I do. You know what I mean? So many guys go down these rabbit holes making things so confusing.
Exactly.
To where it's like, if it's just, I know dudes to this day crushing it with like the simplest feeding schedules.
Lucas formula or something, just super simple, bringing it back to the beginning.
Yeah. And it's like, that's a big part of it, but another part of it is like putting in the time, actually taking care of the plants.
Yeah.
And some people don't know what that means.
100%. I think that no matter what, in a grow atmosphere, the passion is what drives that time to actually care about your plants.
Right.
And that, you can grow really, really phenomenal weed with little to no effort, or not effort, little to no experience and finances with a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And, if you just put that time and energy into it and do your research, and you get that AAA grade.
I tell these people, stay the fuck off YouTube.
Yeah, you want to learn from experience, not from what everybody tells you.
Guys that, make them prove to you what they produce, and then ask them for some of their time. And don't be mad when maybe some of them don't have it, and maybe offer them something. Be like, hey, will you sit down with me? I'll give even a simple gesture of somebody thinking your time is worth $200. You're like, no, dude, it's fine. I'll give you my time for free, but I appreciate it. Because most guys are like, give me the recipe to success, and it's like, do you really want to know? Because right now, I could tell you don't seem like you really want to. But, I was thinking the other day about starting this new thing because there's like two dudes that really intrigued me. Like the one guy over here, one guy over here. They're doing these small grows, and they kind of don't have the money to do it right. But what they're producing with what they have is really impressive, and they're putting the time in. And I'm like, it'd be so cool to do like a renovation for them.
Yeah, you see the potential in them, and that's kind of what that real estate play ended up kind of being. We're put in a situation where we could buy a functioning grow, essentially, me and a friend of mine, and we did. There was caregivers in play there, and the way it chalked up, the legal route was just leasing the existing caregivers their grow space back, but we owned the master lease and the property, basically. And with that came a lot of reservations because there was just renovations. There were so many things wrong with the grow that I didn't see eye to eye with. So over the course of 18 months, the whole place got
redone and renovated, and the growers that were in there had lots of potential and moved on to, their own scenario.
Right.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, I know it definitely is, and it's sometimes I have a hard time with it because I know I was lucky to be in the trade world before this, so I saw really good carpenters. I saw really good HVAC guys. I saw way things are like for a $500,000 house, how they're supposed to be installed, and I'm like, let's bring this inside.
Yeah, you see, I think that the trade and labor industry is definitely the best correlation to the high-end craft cannabis production side.
Yeah.
So you need that master craftsmanship, It's like, and the little things the educated could tell, if you walk into like you said, a $500,000 house and you could tell the framing's crooked or, the molding's cheesy or they use cheap finishes on the floors, like, that carpenter didn't take integrity in his work. It was just a cheap money thing.
Mm-hmm.
Those same little nuances apply in the cannabis industry where, you and I could probably walk into any grow and maybe not tell them a million things to do, but instantly feed the type of weed they're growing off of the cleanliness or their SOPs or what they're doing, because it's the nuances that,
and the flow of the building too, there's so much lack of knowledge with just, put a flower room here,
Exactly.
and just it's all from learning the hard way.
Yeah, you fuck up, make your mistakes.
Big time.
Yeah, you learn from them.
I mean, I bought 30 lights and not enough AC. Like, I know what happens.
Or, you thought more lights are better and really cram the footprint. I ran into that and thought, if I could fit 20 lights, it's better than 18 lights.
Yep.
Well, it turns out it's not.
Not even close.
16 lights is probably better.
Yeah, exactly. there's that fine line, and you've had those rooms that just flow, and you're like, motherfucker, this is 4,000 less watts, but this room just crushes.
Yeah, learning from your mistakes provides perspective. Especially because you went into whatever mistake it was confident enough to make it.
Right.
And then learn from it, and the next approach is more reserved with a little bit of a educated backing.
So the method you guys grow.
Yes.
What do you do?
It's super easy. As you were saying, do you really want to see the SOPs? They're really simple. I got like an 8-page SOP. We use cocoa base and,
big pots, small pots?
Small pots, lots of little pots. We converted to this 500 square foot canopy recently.
Yep.
So we're running 216 pots.
Nice.
Or plants, I guess, under 24 lights in a 500 square foot area.
Like drip feeders?
Yeah, everything's drained to waste. Fully automated.
Don't recycle it.
We're not recycling now.
Have you seen anybody have luck with that?
With recycling it?
Yeah.
I know Scott Reach from Rare Dankness was working on big gray water recycling project for his facility in Denver.
Do you know them?
I don't. I know through the grapevine, have friends of friends.
Yeah.
He helped consult a facility I was close with in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So I got to get a little insight on what he was doing while he was building the House of Dankness out in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I know that they do recycle their gray water, so I know it's possible, and I know it's definitely appealing. I think he spent upwards of $1 million or something on his recycling scenario, which one day, if we could build from the ground up, would be amazing.
Right, totally. So, have you kind of used the same, like, has your method stayed like the same from the beginning, pretty much, or
no? It's developed a lot. Learned from a lot of mistakes going into growing, out in Cali, outside. The whole concept was organic super soils.
Right.
Organic was a big part of my life then. And the trying to achieve an organic lifestyle still is a part of my life now. So we were doing a lot of super soil mixes, just waters or teas, and top dress if we need to.
Yeah.
And kind of took that when I went into inside. My buddy who showed me a little bit more of the ropes helped me set up my first personal indoor room. He was kind of doing the same thing, light soil mix, and we just water through veg, and then back in the day using advanced nutrients for flower. So that's kind of the train I was introduced to. Gave me kind of the bottle feeding chart, I guess. So I started with that inside, kind of using some salts with the organic base, and didn't know much at the time, and that then correlated to super soils and a little more in-depth teas, and still running that advanced line as a base, which is organic and synthetic blend, and we got super familiar with that, and
over time, just the big pots and soil was just such a chore to deal with.
It's a bitch.
Yeah, so tried to go big pots and Pro Mix, and then slowly drifted. Pro Mix had the HPCC back in, I don't know, 2012 or 13, whatever, and started using that, and I was like, sweet, kind of cocoa hybrid with peat, and that then introduced cocoa at the time, and I guess just gravitated towards that, like, easier, more watering cycles, and still stayed with the advanced base for quite a while, up until maybe 3 years ago, where as scaling happened and costs were tight, it was really the only way to stay in business was to figure out how to reduce costs. So
totally,
went totally the opposite spectrum on the just straight salts, and found a synthetic ag fertilizer for large scale agricultural farms, and started mixing my own base nutrients.
Powdered, so you made it yourself.
Dialed
it in.
I thought I dialed it in, but figured it out as it went. It worked, without a doubt. I was growing good healthy plants with it, but definitely noticed a difference in quality along the lines with just flavor, taste, the little nuances, or yield, or certain strains wouldn't respond to my base mix, and it then dawned on me that I'm no biochemist, so I was kind of looking for the solution on how to reel back the salts, and so went back to advanced because that's what I knew, and was just always kind of testing random lines to see if there was a better option out there. And Veg Bloom came out, gave that a shot, really liked the concept of powders, but just wasn't really loving it, and simultaneously was figuring out irrigation at the same time, and that was a whole big hurdle on my own to figure out. And once we did figure out, it was a big game changer, but it was lots of learning, and with that, trying all these different nutrients. Like, I'd always have my advanced rooms cranking, and then like these tester rooms, what kind of emitters work, what ones don't clog, how big of a main line, like just the ironing out the kinks rooms. And through that, a buddy of mine suggested, like, trying Floraflex's new line. He's had some sales to do with them, and was able to get me some
their nutrient,
just some powders from them before it was to market, and a suggested feed chart, and just kind of went ham with it in one of my small rooms, and it was super successful. Plants really loved it.
Floraflex, you implemented that as well?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, so that ended up being the irrigation, like, I guess, equipment choice that we went with. Their multi-flow.
I've seen them. They're pretty slick.
They work well. Mass produced, so everything's got their little kinks here and there, but they work really well. And so while installing all that, they were kind of teasing this new nutrient line, so sent some my way, and I gave it a shot, and really just seemed like it worked so well with the irrigation we were putting in, with the system we kind of fell into place with, which is batch tank mixing versus fertigation, so I can really tailor to my feeds, but doing larger batch tanks that can sit for a week if I need them to.
No shit.
So we can run multiple rooms with less labor, just a little easier. Instead of mixing tanks every day, I can let them sit 3-4 days. And with most other nutrients, I found just running into the base didn't stay stable, or the pH was whack, or the microbes got gross or anaerobic or whatever. So kind of dialed it all back to just that base salt line, and then added slowly from there, and found out, what else do I need? I'm like, CalMag and silica, just the little nuances, and have it down to 5-6 products that we just juggle depending on time of flower or veg. But super simple. Usually I use that Floraflex base, a little CalMag, and it's easy. Top feed, drain to waste, and small plants, lots of feeds a day.
That's sweet, because I went down and saw this dude's grow down in Rhode Island, because my buddy was trying to get me off Cannah and Aptus because it was so expensive. I was using that combo, and so this dude introduced me to his feed chart with Botanicare, kind of like the same idea as Advance,
I teased the Botanicare line at one point,
and he had like a homemade dripper system, and that's kind of like right up my alley. Before that was really on the market, there wasn't really a good one. So you have the old school light timer that plugs into the outlet, that's a square, hooked into the pump, just a regular
like
pump.
A sump pump.
PVC up, and we were doing that, and this guy, of course, guarantee a 2.5, you know, a light, blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, sweet, you know. And we tried that, and you know, we were really successful with that. And I just didn't like how the store was constantly like, oh, this is like, now they're trying to push me on this brand and then this brand, because I could be like, and like kind of smart about it, being like, all right, your margin's better. So I'm like, and then we'd find where we couldn't, you know, it was hard to deal direct then. Not many businesses would let you order direct from Botanicare because they're keeping their store going.
Yep.
And so we were finding kinks in the supply chain where,
of course,
oh, I don't get my B. Now what do I do? Well, just supplement this from this other thing, and then it just throws it off that much more, you know. So that was my drive to get away from it a little bit. But
yeah, that totally makes sense.
It also fits my lifestyle, you know, the way we grow. It's just like, I feel like growers, you know, if you're pulled in a direction, just go with it. Don't fight it.
Exactly. If it works, you know, there's so many ways to do it, and like everybody's going to create their system. It's just like the way you navigate your day is different than the way I navigate my day.
100%.
Like to eat and drink and everything about us, you know, our relationships are all different, and what attracts us are different. So the way we grow is definitely going to be way different.
And I love seeing the differences in like all the brands and all the dudes, and at the end of the day, like, what do they produce? You know, at the end of the day, it's like, that's all that matters. You know what I mean? As long as the guy is not some sort of, you know, psychopath or something, like, he can do whatever he wants, but at the end of the day, if it works, what the hell do I care?
Clean, quality, tastes good. I mean, that's what we're looking for with weed.
That's all that matters, you know?
I don't care about yield or anything like that. You know, it's important, it pays the bills, but you know, quality smoke's all I'm after. And I think, just like you, at the end of the day, that's what matters more than the character or how you got there. It's, you know, it's good weed's good weed.
Right. And you know, it's like really like pushing the bar and really trying, you know. It's like, I don't know what's around the corner. All I know is we're just going to keep, like, my goals are like probably different than yours, but my goal is like, how can I be as sustainable as possible in an industry that seems like it's not a sustainable industry at all. That's my thing. It's like when someone says it's impossible, I'm like, all right, that's what I need to hear.
Yeah, there's a way to do it.
I love hearing there's no fucking way, because that's what everybody told us in the beginning, is like, there's no fucking way that you guys are going to grow indoors, you know, living soil and have it test.
Why not?
And I'm like, okay, why? You know, like, why? What? It just doesn't make sense to me, you know? It's like, everything's attainable. It's how far do you want it to drive you nuts?
Yeah, and you know, what you're willing to do to get there, I think, is a huge factor in it. You know, it's like, you want to grow indoor organic living soils, you just figure out the correct way to do it. It'll work. And you know, your product definitely speaks volumes to that. So you figured out a clean, easy way to do it. You know, low cost, high quality output. What more could you ask for?
But it's one of those things where definitely no investor wants to even, like, you know how many people have tried to get into my business and try to push me in a different direction just because the yield's not as pretty as Ding Dong getting 4 pounds of light, you know, like, that's not my game.
Yeah, you know, and I think a lot of that whole perspective of a, you know, outsider coming in and telling you what to do, I mean, they're outside of the industry for a reason. Mm-hmm. You know, they didn't put the legwork in that you have for, you know, the extended period of your lifetime. You figured out what works for you.
Yeah.
Some guy with a pocket full of money has no idea what works for you or your growth style or even this marketplace. So for them to come try to tell you, oh, it's a better yield if you do it this way and we'll pay to do it, it's just not an attractive thought. And, you know, I think people get lost in the financial concept of things. And
I don't tell dudes how to fix my car.
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
It's like, you're a mechanic, fix the car. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Like, it's, and what a lot of people don't understand is, like, I'm the type of dude where if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail my way. Yeah. And that's all I care about. Like, you can tell me it's stupid, and maybe it is, but I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah, and you take responsibility for it that way, where it's like, this is what I thought was a good idea, and it's gratifying when it is a good idea, and it's humbling when it's not. But you know, those are the learning curves of life.
Many times I've walked in the room and Corey's looking at me and he can tell. I'm like, yeah, fucked up again. Yep. And he's like, okay, you know. but I come in with a plan. How are we gonna fix it? What are we gonna do? What are we not gonna do? It's not just like fucked up, you know.
not just a wash. And I've always said this, and I think it's probably one of the more true statements about growers is, what makes a good grower isn't their garden right now.
Right.
That current last harvest isn't what makes a good grower. It's how they deal with the problems that are going to come. And someone's like, oh, I've never had PM, or I've never had spider mites, or I've never seen bud rot. It's like, okay, well, you've never grown enough weed.
Or you're like,
yeah, those are the two situations. It's how do you deal with those things when they come, those curveballs are thrown, outside. You see botrytis. What makes a good grower is, diagnosing how to save those plants without failing lab tests and without sacrificing massive yields. Those are the things that make growers dangerous.
Or the dude that just says, I fucking slept on my shit, cut it down. Because
those are the executive decisions that I think set the passionate growers apart from, the guys looking at it for money or finance or whatever. Yield. When you get to 4 pounds of light or any pounds of light stuck in your head, it's just you're missing the point of growing weed.
My dad's really heavy into real estate now. He's a really successful real estate agent, and he's kind of like the weed real estate agent. He's gone from the cop to like the weed guys can be like, yo, I got 50 grand in cash. I want to buy a house. I need to owner finance it. My dad's like, all right, I'll make it. He's the dude that's going to make that happen.
Figure out how to finesse
and he's been the dude
situation.
He's been the dude through this whole thing for a lot of guys. Like I've linked so many dudes, just be like, here you go. And he goes, they all grow the best fucking weed, Trav. They all do. They all tell me the same thing.
Yeah.
They all tell me how rich they are, how much, and my dad's like, well, guess what? You can grow the best weed, but you're not the best dude at getting your finances in order, because why don't you have a check for me?
Exactly. And then, that's something that you just hear all the time, too. Everybody's just floating their own boat, or, it goes back to what we talked about before, where they may grow the best weed in their circle, but when it comes scaling the world, your circle of 100 people, it's really not scratching the surface of the best weed or the world-class weed that connoisseurs are really after.
It's like, like when we used to go out a little bit, we'd go down to this local spot and people recognize the hat, and it's just immediate, like, always weed talk. Which I'm fine with, but it's like you're telling me how good you are, and you and your uncle are gonna, like basically put me out of business, and it's just like
rule the world.
Yeah, it's all this stuff, and they don't like my reaction. I'm just like, all right, cool, no problem. Like I don't, whatever, like I hope you come up and do something good and raise the bar. I mean, I don't care if there's 7 grows right here. I'm not in competition with any of these dudes.
Yeah, I say that a lot, not even in competition with myself. It's more just, this is what I want to do, and, I'm going to learn as I go, and I'll make more mistakes as we go, but it's not about who's got better weed or who's got better yields or more money or who's got it quicker or first. To me, it's more about, just long-lasting stability, and, that'll unfold is who finished the marathon.
If you told me, like, you'd literally make no money, but all your bills would be covered, you can just go grow every day, I'd be like, good. All right, here we go. Like, it's the most enjoyable job for my personality that there is. Like, I can go in at 2 a.m. if I need to get done early. If things aren't time sensitive, like, I can do what I need to do what I want to do. I can make my schedule.
Yeah, you want to enjoy some nice weather, you can do it. If that means, I'll go back to the garden at 6 p.m., crank for a few hours. But you mold your own schedule. And, I totally agree, and it's definitely what has led me to where I'm at, is I need to work for myself. And it's more just, I don't like the pressure of other people telling me what to do, or having to live up to somebody else's expectations or how it should be. I want to paint the picture of how I think things should be, and, what I want. And, it's a big reason why I tried scaling is because just finding product that's what I need or my patients need, or what we're after as connoisseurs, is so tricky that the only way I could get it was just doing what I wanted. I knew the product I was trying to obtain, and it wasn't that other people couldn't grow good weed. They just, the strains were I'm familiar with. I know what I'm after, and I think that just chasing that is that. I don't even know that confidence.
I think you're being a little too nice about it. Like, there's just a lot of people don't know what good weed is. I don't care if it's organic, it's hydro. I don't care, where made in a lab on the moon. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, to me, it's just, I don't think I would be pushing to because we're in the process of building a brand new facility, of making it as big as I would if there was a surplus of really, really, like, there's the stores are running out of the good weed. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is my job. You know, for some reason, I'm like, this is my fucking job to get it to as many people as I can. And, like, even if I grew 100 pounds a week, I wouldn't be touching your people down there. Like, that's what people don't understand.
Yeah, you know, the market's untapped for a quality product, because the
Right.
quality product is just super hard to find, few and far between. So, you know, I think even scaled, if you could figure out a way to scale it, still deliver that quality, it doesn't interfere with other marketplaces. Good quality product's always going to get consumed quickly.
It's so hard because you need every another 1,000 square feet, you need that dude to be all in. That's the problem with scaling, is you need 5 of you. You know what I mean? And like, what do you, like, in any industry, how the hell do you find somebody that makes it their own? You know, that truly just, like, you know those days when you just put your head down and you're like, all the weight's right here. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you find a dude that just takes half of that?
Yeah, and is willing to run with it.
Yeah, and he's like, dude, this is, like, I love dudes that I can be like, this is gonna fucking suck. And they're like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, you know, and every good team's got them.
Yeah,
and you know, there's no way to scale or grow without them, or scale any business without them. I think up here in Maine, it is hard to find those core members, because the people that are dedicated and hardworking are in somebody else's business or working tight knit with, you know, someone that they work well with. And it's just not that many people up here willing to put that much energy into the what ifs of the industry, you know, the maybe, or the how far can this go. You know, it's hard to get people to commit to a uncertain future, and that's what it takes, you know, a certain breed like you and I to just say, you know, we are all in, and we're looking for people all the time to join us on that. But the perspective doesn't change, and the uncertainty will always be there until, you know, whatever recreational licenses are in play, and then even then it's maintaining a successful small business.
And they don't want to accept the fact that it's going to take a little more than 2 weeks to earn your stripes. You know what I mean?
Maybe 20 years we'll figure this out.
Not even. It's just going to take for me that one thing where I'm like, you know, because I really try, because I know when the little things are just you know, like, I come out and, you know, the trash is taken out, the bathroom's clean. I'm like, oh, he's in, you know, that's, you know, like, so many times it's like people think there's this hierarchy in the grow, like, oh, you get to mix nutrients and water, you're above the dude that has to sweep or pluck leaves. It's like, be the best fucking leaf plucker I've ever seen in my life, you know, and learn the chart.
Yeah.
Learn the chart, know it to a T, where you're like, oh, you're doing this, this, and this. I'm like, that son of a bitch is paying attention. You know what I mean? But I'm the type of person where if the star lineup's on the field and we need a bookkeeper, I'm gonna be the bookkeeper. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. You know, like, there's certain people who I would rather, or I'm more confident in their ability to follow my procedure when it comes to, like, batch mixing tanks or whatever it is. You know, but everybody who is on the ground floor helping us out in the garden, all of our employees, whether it's trimmers or, you know, the people who help us harvest or defan, we all kind of wear all the hats. You know, if I need you to fill a res, I'm gonna write what to put in it and jump right on it. Or, you know, if we need to get this defan or defoliation done, you know, by Friday, I'm right there in there with them, and we're kind of pulling all hands on deck a lot around our facility. You know, trimmers come help us harvest all the time. It's just, you know, them kind of showing that they are the team players, and it's a core group. It's not big, but I think the flexibility of everybody wearing the many hats is the only way we get through our day to day.
It's so hard because so many people tell me, like when I was kind of dipping my toes into going a little more, we'll call it corporate, like letting kind of people that I trusted tell me what I should be doing. They're all like, you shouldn't be working in there in the grow with them. You shouldn't feel bad about not harvesting today. And I'm like, I can't fucking think like that. Like I can't be sitting here eating lunch with these people and not be thinking about my dudes. You know?
Yes, 100%.
And like, I feel like so many people, like I said on the podcast with Bobby, detach. and boss, or it's just a collective. There's
Yeah, it's a hard line to draw, though.
Yeah.
You know, like as we're both going through the ups and downs of scaling and turning what was a passion and an interest into a career path.
Yeah.
You know, those managing days are hard, or you know, but I think just getting in, not forgetting, you know, the structure of things and where you came from, staying in the garden where you can is super important. It's what's going to keep, you know, those grassroots businesses, like you said, a collective, or, you know, not that corporate mogul.
Right.
You know, it's the ones where the owners are in there sweeping the floor if that's what needs to get done, or mopping the floor, or whatever it is. Harvest days, you know, I schedule out my harvest for the whole year.
Yeah.
So, you know, every Monday I'm harvesting. Everybody knows not to call me, and I'm full, all hands on deck, and that's what it is. It's a 14-hour day. It's a 14-hour day, and I'll still do whatever we need to do for tracking patient sales or our wholesale transactions, and you know, the bookkeeper end of it or whatever it is. That all maintains while we put those long days in.
Yeah, and it's sometimes hard for people. You know, I'm not the type of person that wants to hang anything over anyone's head, so sometimes they don't know. You know, oh, it's 10 o'clock, I gotta go home and work for 4 more hours, whether it's, you know, pay CMP, you know, get paperwork in. You know, I'm not someone that's like, oh, I was up till 1 a.m. doing this. I'm just like, it's part of the fucking job. And if someone asks, dude, you're off today, why are you so tired? I'll just say, hey, you know, like,
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, this is what I had to do, and I don't really give a shit because it's what I signed up for. It's what you signed up for.
Yeah, you know,
you can't be mad about it. No. I look at it like I'm glad.
We're fortunate. That's what it really is. It's like, it's a lot to handle. It's so much coming at us from all angles at one time. It's tough to manage and tough to plan, like you and I obviously struggle with.
Oh, yeah.
But we're fortunate to be, you know, struggling to keep up.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that are struggling to keep up with their daily life. You and I are struggling to keep up with a large-scale business demand, which is, you know, we're fortunate to be there.
And I love to see that, like, I'm in an industry where literally every ounce of sweat you put in, you pull out.
Oh yeah.
And if you just you just keep pushing, you know, like, you can't have that thought in your head that that you can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? It's like anything that's really, really hard. Like this, doing what we do is, I don't think people understand how hard it is, and some days how hard it is to keep going when you get denied on that loan. When, you know, dude over here, you know, sells 90% less than us, but he sells fucking gum, you know, and he can work with that bank money and really have an advantage.
Yep.
You know, like a huge advantage, because like a lot of people don't know, like the non-conventional loan from dude, you know, the interest you're gonna pay is brutal.
Oh, it's extreme. You know, that hard
and it's
money
gonna be
loan.
quick.
Yes.
He wants to be paid back in 12 months, and on 100,000 he wants 15K.
Yeah, 15%, some super silly turnaround rates. You
In
know.
12, and it used to be when I first started double.
Wow.
That's what I know people paying.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you know, that's something, you know, I touched on earlier, that just taking the loan has always just been so unappealing to me.
Right.
You know, I'd rather, you know, go tight on my budget for a little bit and sacrifice something short term to know I'll put those benchmarks in place to get that financial gain. You know, I try to keep the finances out of it, other than just planning the next, you know, I guess next scale or next level up.
Yeah. It's super, I mean, I just hate it when I see a guy who is passionate and doing a good job and getting better, and then he takes on dude one, and it's just like implosion.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like you just see the life sucked out of him. He's working for a paycheck now.
Yeah.
Like, I almost went down that fucking road.
I did as well. And, you know, got signed up in the small commercial grow way back when, you know, and it's for a salary. And I mean, it was everything I wanted at the time, but it just...
There's some days you want to take all that responsibility and just give it to someone.
Yeah. And
you do this fucking shit, dude.
Exactly.
I'll just work for a paycheck, but now it's like, I was fortunate, you know, to get pushed around a little bit to where, you know, I didn't want to work anymore. You know, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what the you know, I need to figure out the right way to do it, and it's probably a good segue, but a person that was really big on calling when I needed it and like really pushing me to do what I wanted to do was Brian. Like my relationship with him wasn't the longest, but for some reason we met up, dude, like fucking met up at a Chinese restaurant one day and we just started shooting the shit, and next thing I know we're there for 5 hours. And he'd call me on those times, every single time when I was ready to fucking freak out. Bro, I got the sickest idea. And I'd just be like, fuck. There goes my bad mood, you know what I mean? It's just like that kid, we had these grandioso plans, like when I get to the point when I can have a store, nobody else can run this fucking store. You're the manager, you're going to be the dude. And, you know,
candidate.
And you know, I didn't know him for the longest period of time, but like it was like phone call every 3 days. Like just he's one of those dudes that I can say honestly really gave a shit once you just gave him the littlest bit of loyalty. Like once he knew that like he was a buddy, it was like he's immediately your best friend.
Yeah, so I guess for me, my relationship with him was also relatively short-lived, but over the span of many years, I guess. You know, back in Rhode Island when they were doing these secret cups or whatever, you know, I was obviously getting involved, and he'd be a familiar face at these small cultured gatherings or whatever. And
he made himself known too.
Yeah. So, you know, he was just always a guy I'd see around and, you know, talk to him friendly, but never got to know him. And, you know, the whole case happened, and in that interval where they were building my case, you know, I was still smoking, obviously, and it was very hard to find product, you know, like I couldn't find anything for myself to just smoke on, and you know, everywhere I went, people were like, you know, here's an eighth, this would give me a little bit of bud, and at the time I was a very heavy smoker. It was just impossible to find, you know, something or someone willing to give me an ounce or 2 ounces or whatever. And some event, I bumped into Brian, and he was like, what happened? I heard what happened, kind of, you know, wrapped his head around the whole scenario, and he was like, anything I can do to help? I'm like, just find me fucking 6 ounces of weed or something. I just stopped looking for a few months. Like, I just want to smoke and not stress about it. I'm so stressed out about life right now. And him not really knowing me, but knowing the scenario and seeing some people around us kind of reserved to want to help me, he was like, I got you, no problem. And that just showed his character to me. I'm like, this kid's a good kid, because it's more about just getting, you know, a passionate person some good weed. And he pulled through and made sure I was smoking good for, you know, that uncertain time. And, you know, then kind of just drifted away as that probation hit, and I was just like, all right, I'm like kind of hands off for right now. You know, I'm going to do my own thing. And it just kind of would stay in touch, but nothing crazy. And then when we finally did get things wrapped under wraps and down into the new building, we were working with a lab and a edible processor at the time that, you know, Brian was close with. So he'd be coming up all the time to see them, and just would hit it off because we had that couple past transactions and nothing crazy, or it was super personable. And we just knew a lot of the same people, and they all seemed to be, you know, passionate cannabis enthusiasts. You know, people who at the time were, you know, new at the forefront of the culture, I guess, or forefront of the industry. He just seemed to know everybody that cared.
And he always, like, he was so good at sifting out bullshit. Like the best. Like, your stuff's the best. I'm coming to buy it tomorrow. Like, what are you gonna let me have? I'm
show
gonna
it to me, and we'll be the
smoke
judge
it.
of it.
And like, you know, like he was one of those dudes that, you know, one day I'm sitting with him in the parking lot shooting the shit, and he goes, Trav, bro, I grew up rich, like wealthy, and I'm like, okay, cool. And he goes, but I see everybody around me. He goes, I appreciate the fuck out of where I am and how fortunate I am. You know, like he was one of those dudes that knew how well he had it, and he just rolled all the time. Like, it was like, you know how many times, like, it would be a phone call at like 10 o'clock at night asking to drive maybe like to Oregon the next morning, like always an idea of something fucking, you know, like he was always the dude, like if I posted something silly on Instagram of my kids or my dog, like he was like calling and he's like, dude, that was so funny, and he wanted to like really talk. Like, he was fully vested, and I feel like there was so many people, you know, because after the accident, like I didn't really know what happened. One of the Corey, the kid that works for me, he came in and was like, "Yo, someone posted something, you know, see what's going on." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like I didn't know what happened, and then I had heard, and within 3 days, his dad called and was like, "Hey, you know, I know you heard what happened. I just want to kind of reach out to Brian's friends and like figure out, you know, just talk and see, you know." And it was like every 2 days he'd call me. Like Brian's dad was just like asking stories about Brian and kind of wanted to know more of his kid rather than going into that turtle shell that I know a lot of people go into. He was like, I need to explore more about how this kid lived.
Yeah, I think, you know, getting to know his parents a little bit more through that tragedy, it was kind of awesome that they acknowledged how unique of a lifestyle he was living.
Yeah.
Rather than just, you know, go into that recoil.
Yeah, like write him off as the wild child, you know, almost. Because he was, and you could tell in his family, you know, like...
But, you know, like that was his character, it seemed like, you know, a little bit living on the edge. And, yeah, it was cool how his parents embraced that, you know, like the whole glass art lifestyle and the cannabis culture. Like, most people, it's so foreign and so much to wrap your head around. It's way easier to just say, oh, you know, that he was interested in the weed stuff. But they really embraced it full force because they knew he was passionate about it. And I think that's where my actual relationship in huge respects came from for him after he passed, when I really got to know his family and see like the deep roots of, like, they're very genuine people. Yeah, they may live in a wealthy area or whatever, you know, but they're hardworking and just genuinely good people. And
true, yeah,
you were able, or I was able to see the reflection of Brian's parents in him.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, oh, he surrounds himself with genuine people. Like, that's how he was raised. And
yeah,
I think them opening up to the cannabis culture and involving it so much, and the friends and relations Brian had met in his passing was, you know, the best choice that his family and friends could have made. And I think it made a lot of positive connections within the industry and culture that, you know, they'll forever be thanked for.
Yeah, 100%. It's like it's one of those people, I feel like in my mind he's gonna like be almost like one of those people we talk about in 20 years, you know what I mean, like a legend type of thing.
Yeah,
like, because he is to me.
Yeah, well, that's right. He just left a mark on so many lives, and the mark was in such a positive way where it's easy to remember the people that are really positive, and I feel like he left that with everybody he talked to, because he focused on that genuine connection. You know, even if it was a cannabis relationship like you and him, how maybe it started, he was more interested in your dogs and your kids than he was the bud you were growing.
Yeah, he
genuine character.
He was so when his dad first called me, I'm like, am I gonna get like a lecture about selling Brian weed? Like, that's what I think
at that uncertain time. I mean, it's,
so I'm like, no, all I know is like they're well off, you know, and maybe in traditional families that are, you know, well off in certain neighborhoods, they look down on the weed thing, and, you know, maybe I'm just like a scumbag to his dad, you know. But I was so nervous, like the first time I didn't even pick up, like I didn't know who it was, and he left me a voicemail. I'm like, fuck. And he called me again, and I'm like, the least I can do is just suck it up, whatever I'm gonna take. And it was like an hour and a half he talked to me, and I'm like, whoa, like I didn't expect it. I was almost like, shit, this is crazy, because he's like asking like, can you connect, like who can you connect me with, who would want to talk to me. And I'm like, oh, dude, the least I can do is just give you a list, like I'll just have dudes call you, you know what I mean? And he was just like, yes, please. And it was so interesting. It was like he wanted to meet my kids. He wanted to know everything. What was Brian interested? Why was he interested? He wants a tour of the grow, you know, that kind of shit. And I'm like, this is so fucking cool.
I totally had a similar experience, you know, and him and his brother came, checked out our garden, and they wanted to find out who Brian really was and who he was associating with. And I think when they found out how it was very genuine, it just intrigued them. And
rather than being, so
writing it off,
like crushed by the whole scenario. And I'm sure it did crush them. I think it really showed that with the right community you could power through anything, and they really handled it super well and brought a ton of people in the community together
big time. And I think it's like once all these uncertain times are over with, it's like about time like you find that good group of dudes, get them together and just do something. It doesn't have to be anything wild, but just like whatever you want to call it. Like he would totally fucking love a straight up like event where it's just not even a cannabis cup type of thing,
but just a celebration of his life or something. That's what he deserves, without a doubt.
I mean, he'd tell us not to do it if he was around. He'd just be like, I don't need a fucking birthday party, but at the same time, I'd love it. Like his buddy, I don't know his name, but does that like motocross event. He does like a whip contest down in like Massachusetts and shit. This huge motocross event, like wild, like motocross shit. Like I mean, I can't do any of it, but like just shit. Like I'd be sitting there like, whoa, like this is sick. But I hit him up. I was like, dude, you do something like that again, you let me know. I'll sponsor. I'll do whatever you want. Like I'm totally down with having like a badass celebration for the kid.
Just get behind him, and because I feel like there's a lot of people that could get behind where he was at, and he's just positively moving forward with positive momentum from everyone.
And he's a dude that's had problems with getting caught. He had some issues with that, and he's like, oh, probation, if I get caught again, but I'm not stopping. Like, because he saw the void in good product. He was like, I can't.
And just the ethical approach on the law side, like there's something about, I mean, cannabis shouldn't be illegal in any state or federally or any. It should be a right to consume if you so please. And I think that's where me and Brian related, because through the troubles of the law and all the inconveniences and headaches it brought, nothing was going to stop us from eventually getting involved in cannabis. And he definitely was that guy. Throughout his probation, it was go ahead and try to stop me. I stand for it. And I ran into some trouble when I was even younger as a kid, and was the same way on the state level. Did everything I could to stop smoking. Needed my hands on plants at that time. When it got to the federal level, it scared me straight, I guess you could say. But he was a prime example of like a frontline soldier for the cannabis culture, not like not just trying to get in on the money.
No, not at all. And like the amount of awareness he was just raising for free. Like if someone did something fucked up, like he was always the first dude. He wasn't afraid.
And I think that comes down to ethical, values in his character. Like if you're doing some fucked up shit, everybody should know so that people don't get burned or don't get taken advantage of. And it takes a proud and righteous person to stand up to put someone on blast like that. And I feel like he was always about that because he knew what he was behind was ethically correct.
And a part of the thing I really loved about him is from growing up well off, he was a little naive on like people fucking people over hard, because like me and you were like, oh, that's expected, par for the course. Yep, that's, you put 20 grand on the table, or say we expect to make 40 grand together and we make 5. When that 5's there, what do? Do we justify who deserves more, or do you just say 25? This fucking sucks.
Split it,
yeah. What do? And I think in his mind, people really do that. I would always get that. Are you serious? I'm like, dude, this is real life. I love that you're living over here in, fantasy land, but
naive to how ugly reality can really get.
But I don't think that ever slowed him down. He just was like, like whatever, like I don't.
Yeah, he's. I'm not gonna surround myself with toxic people, and we won't have to worry about shit like that.
It's almost like he was like, yeah, toxic people don't exist. You just had a bad day, like, and then when you hang out with people like that, you don't even want to bring that to them.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that, like, you really attract your own company with what you put out there.
Right.
I think the amount of positivity he put out there and like just positive awareness for the people around him just attracted really genuine good people. And that creates a little bit of that naive approach to how scary or ugly reality really
and he just was just like he was this guy like, here's me, dump it out on the table, and you had no other choice to be. You can't be fake in front of him because he's just like, got a mullet, redhead with a mullet, just like
out there, and he's a character that just, paved his own path. And he didn't like the music he listened to. Oh well, he's still gonna listen to it loud.
It's like the first time we met at that Chinese restaurant. We were sitting there, we had eaten, and there's a family of like 15 people. I'll never forget this. And they get done eating, and their kids left the floor trashed. And you think of like a well-off person, they're just gonna be like, oh yeah, that's the job of the person that owns the restaurant. He's like, that's fucking disgusting. He goes, I can't take it. He gets down on the floor and starts cleaning it. So I'm with him. What are you gonna do? Not gonna watch him?
I'll help him out. Yeah. Like, I guess you're gonna go there, so I'll stand behind you.
So like in Lewiston, Maine,
cleaning the restaurant.
Yeah, and I'm like, this dude like
on
one in a million.
Shit, yeah.
1 in a fucking million. To this day, 1 in a million. It's crazy.
He was relentless too if he wanted to be your friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were going to be his friend.
I love that.
I did too.
Yeah. There's a certain drive that attracts people too, and like same thing you said, he tell you something's impossible, you're gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
That drive attracts people, and I think he kind of had that same thing with just like, oh, you're not happy, I'm gonna make you smile.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
It was almost entertainment to him, and I feel like that innocence is just so hard to find.
Yeah, it is. And like the organic, when we started going really organic, that really like, he was always in the fucking telling me about this shit at Whole Foods that was like energy drinks and this stuff, and I'm like, great, like I'm not going down that road yet, but he was always bringing me shit like super power tea or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah,
like, dude,
wanted you to try. I wanted to share something exciting with you. That's the type of people you want to keep around. Someone who finds something they enjoy and they want to share it with you.
Yeah.
And it's definitely like that.
Oh man,
especially I think with cannabis, and that's why maybe people like you and me and the other people I know who are attracted towards him is like, he knows what good weed is and he wants to share it. He doesn't want all the good weed for himself. He wants to buy an ounce of it and light it up with everybody around him.
I strongly believe to this day, like, he never made a dime off of me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I think
if he did, he probably told you.
I think he smoked for free.
Yeah.
But I think he was like that dude. Is like, someone says, yeah, I'm down and out. I don't have any money. You don't have any money for weed? Fuck, here you go.
Here's a couple bucks or a joint or something.
Get me when you're good.
Yeah, hit me back.
It's like, I'll smoke them up, whatever, And I remember I knew this other dude down there, and there was a piece of glass or some shit for sale online, and I ended up linking these two dudes, and so he bought a piece off of Brian, and I don't know shit about glass, but this thing was like $1,000, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. I would never spend that on glass. I don't know. So when I was driving down to his funeral, I'm like, dude, I know you just bought this off of Brian like 2 weeks ago, but I need to buy it from you because I'm going to give it to his buddy Seth. I'm sure you know Seth.
I do not know Seth.
Okay, so it was one of his good buddies, and I was like, I don't know why this feels like something I need to do, but I feel like this is something that like Brian would do, because they're very like obsessed with glass, and I'm not going to pretend for a second I understand it, but I do understand it because I'm obsessed with shit nobody's obsessed with. So I get it. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. So freaking go there, and I give it to Seth, and he just breaks down and just starts bawling, and I'm like, this is the impact someone like Brian can have on your life. Like, when else would you think, like, gotta fucking do something. He has that impact, that impact on me of like doing better. You know what I mean? Just
being as genuine and positive around the people.
Yeah, and just like, it's like stupid shit like that might make, maybe it doesn't make a difference in someone's life or whatever over the long term, but maybe it does.
Yeah, I think those are the things that make those landmark impressions. Seth's probably never gonna forget you. It was always gonna have that piece in his collection.
Yeah, we always keep in contact and shit.
Yeah,
like it's
that action probably created like an unbreakable bond in some certain way.
Yeah,
you and him may not be the tightest and closest of friends, but you'll always have that strong common interest.
Yeah.
that bond with Brian that, the people who had are fortunate enough to remember.
Oh yeah, just the best of human beings. So, store, you got a store?
Yes, 2 of them. One not cannabis product store, but industry supply store, the Supply Co.
Do you own that?
50% partner in it, correct?
I didn't know that.
And then the gas station is another store project that I'm involved with.
Where's that?
Our current medical office space is in Gorham right now.
Yeah.
We're working on zoning with the city of Portland. And
are you gonna buy an old gas station?
We have an old gas station on Congress Ave.
I love
it. Congress.
Yeah.
It's
is it a battle? Is it a battle to get everything going?
Yeah, we're probably more behind than others as far as not super locally connected or whatever, but we're going through all the motions on the process, and if it works out with the city of Portland, great. If not, it was worth a shot.
You must have a good hookup on packaging.
Through the shop, we got it.
Yeah. That's sick, because I went down there and I'm like, I could order this shit offline, but I was kind of like, when we were going to do something here, that's why it's set up like this. I was like, I was lazy, honestly. I just went down. I'm like, what can I put some weed in? And price-wise, I'm like, fuck. Why am I ordering offline? The dude I met, I don't know who he was, but he's cool as shit.
Probably Chris, the other owner. He's usually in there for the most part.
Yeah, and he hooked it up. I put a pretty good order in, and, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I had no idea that, you had that. I haven't been back down because we're not doing, I didn't want to do the store thing, and it kind of made it, not the town kind of wasn't allowing it type of thing. It was a fucked up scenario. But,
sure.
So that's awesome. You saw that void in the industry real quick.
Kind of, and it was something that through building out and redeveloping these grows, I really was just tired, similar to you mentioned before, fighting the supply chain for on the commercial cultivation side, especially in the infancy of it 4 or 5 years ago versus now. It was hard to not get hosed by our grow store, and
really hard.
Yeah, I'd show my loyalty to the certain stores locally, and it just never seemed to really reciprocate. And at the end of it, I just looked at it like, oh, we're spending X at a year, and that's enough to sustain a small store or small grow store.
Yeah.
How do we do that locally without infringing on competition, I guess, or without creating competition?
Yeah.
And it was more focus on the other facets of the industry, like the packaging and lab supply and things that we knew a little bit about, but there wasn't an easy resource for. It was, you wanted packaging, you order it online, or that was kind of it. You get creative with what stickers and local resources you could, and that's very expensive. So it was more just people need carts from somewhere, and instead of ordering from China and dealing with the headache and hassle of waiting for shipping times and this and that, time is money. So we figured if we can come close or match, or in some cases beat online or Chinese overseas pricing, that's what we should try to do. And we figured out a way to line it up where the margins aren't incredible, but it's a sustainable local business, and it gives that local outlet.
And I personally, I think a lot of growers and people in the industry are like me. They want to go in somewhere and talk to the dude and be able to ask the question, why is this different than that, rather than go online and see some fucking review of one dude that smoked one vape cart in his whole life. You know what I mean? Rather than
you could see the hard goods, you get some free samples,
talk to a guy, and then a part of it for me is, you're going to bullshit me and lie, then there's someone to hold accountable, not Amazon.com. You're trusting the professional.
Exactly. We take accountability. It makes things easy, and then having the convenience factor was huge with me.
Right.
It's how many times are you like, oh, this guy wants a couple ounces of concentrate for a store or whatever, but you don't have jars, or you don't have
sorry,
labels.
It's going to be 2 weeks.
Yeah, and they wanted it yesterday,
later.
not 2 weeks from now. So that convenience factor, just being able to drive somewhere and go pick them up, to me seemed like the most valued asset of that kind of approach.
Totally.
And it's been something we've, again, like any endeavor, it's been trials and tribulations and growing pains, but we're going to keep at it. And
you've also been the grower or the buyer on some occasions where the dude just doesn't follow through. You want to do it on his time, and then you learn from that and be like, I want to be the dude that says, hey, I need 2 pounds, and you're there in 20 minutes. Yeah. You know what I mean? You want to you want to be that guy so those people know, like, I'm about it. You know, you come calling.
Yeah,
I'm coming. You hold up your end. Let's make a good relationship.
Yeah, I've always just kind of tried to create what I couldn't find as far as on the marketplace, and that, you know, relates to, you know, like the concept of Supply Co. I couldn't find convenience in packaging, so we filled that void. Same thing with growing product. You know, I could never find the pounds I was looking for, the quality I was after, the weed I wanted to smoke, so it was just do it yourself.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, well, there's a void. You know, like, I have the opportunity to fill that void. I can either take it for granted or put my foot on the gas and see what this could really be, you know, and that's super awesome. You know, that's what I feel like there's a lot of guys out there kind of behind the scenes doing that, you know.
That's the risk taker, I guess, perspective, where you see the void and you got to analyze, is it worth trying to fill?
Right.
Does it make sense to fill?
Is it going to be a void tomorrow? Is it going to be a void in 6 months? Exactly. Is it going to be a void in 12 months when I need to get this money back to where it needs to be?
Exactly. And you know, with Supply Co, that was always kind of the constant concern is, you know, what happens if cannabis goes super corporate and those aren't the guys that are going to support a local business, you know, 2 cents a jar to, you know, a big pharmacy company on 10 million jars is a lot of missed profit versus...
Or you have the company that rolls in, big corporation that owns a part of the glass company that makes the jars, and you're just like, I can't compete with...
Can't touch it.
$5 a gram out the door.
Yeah, that's why for us, Supply Co, like, our biggest mentality now is just finding those relationships worth building and really just working together with the local guys that, you know, when push comes to shove, they'll want to continue maintaining that local relationship. Convenience and stability within our community is the important thing. So
big time.
You know, that Supply Co mentality or model will only ever, I think, work in a climate where small business and craft growers thrive.
Yeah.
You know, if I were to try to bring that to California, I'd get
crushed
shit on.
Yeah, you know, there's a Walmart there for that.
Yeah, Massachusetts or whatever, you know, just where that craft industry doesn't thrive and there's not that local support, you know, that business wouldn't do well. And, you know, we're super grateful to be in Portland where, you know, people do respect the local industry and they want to support local. And, you know, that's what's going to keep us a long-term facet here, a long-term staple.
It's a great main thing, especially when you're, you know, in the industry and you see the trickle down. Like, maybe you're only making a little bit, but that little bit is, whether it gets you more buying power as a company or whatever, you know, you're putting more units through and you're feeding your people, helping your people, giving a main dude a job, maybe a couple.
Exactly.
Who gives a shit? You know, if you're...
I'm not trying to get rich. I'm just trying to maintain and really just create that lifestyle I want to live, and that includes all of, you know, the assets of that.
Yeah.
You know, shopping at a grocery store is great, but just being able to have that flexibility of what does that grocery store carry, you know, are my products easily accessible? That's where that modality became so attractive.
I know. It's interesting. There's so many rabbit holes we could go down and just explore, like, oh, you know, as a company we should take this on. And, you know, I almost started the hash lab thing and I'm like, I need to keep my nose here. You know, I want to be a grower who sells to stores. Let's figure out how to grow efficiently as best as we can and just stay there.
100%.
Because there's only 2 of us here.
Exactly, and I think I've realized that same void too, especially after the extraction thing really didn't work out for me. It was, you know, the fundamentals. Let's break it down. Where does the cannabis industry start? And it's with cannabis. So that was my choice. Is like, I need to be focusing only on growing. It's the foundation of it. Eventually, we can figure out vertical integration as things pan out and opportunities open. But, you know, for the foreseeable future, our main focus is just, as yours is, being that grower, you know, providing the stores and they can wear the hat of the reseller or retailer.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's so many things to juggle inside the garden that keep the spark and interest of cannabis alive in me, that that's where I want to be.
Right.
And, you know, the processing labs and things like that, the guys who are super interested in concentrates and super interested in the science of it should be the ones running those facilities.
Yeah, the way I see it is the grow is like the trunk of the tree. And then everything else is just because of that. You take all the grows out,
there's no industry.
There's no industry, and I really wish, just because people like choose to live a certain lifestyle that you might see as lazy or farmer-ish or whatever it is, like, you guys still have to respect that. Without that weed, without that product being grown, there's nothing more there. There's nothing there.
There's nothing to extract, nothing to bring to market. Yeah.
There's no stores. Like, there's nothing. There's nothing. So it's, and I know I'm biased because I run a grow, but that's why I want to put my energy in the grow. The rest of it, like, I'll be straight up, like, I'm glad there's guys pushing the envelope with the stores, because now I can be like, that's a good dude, 6 store.
Yeah, pump it.
Yeah, exactly.
Support
exactly.
it.
And I don't have to worry about, oh, now I have to try to make the best store I can.
Yeah, it's just one more project. That's a whole nother pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, you know, and even with the gas station, it's been, you know, an uphill battle and just so much new uncharted territory for me as a grower. And it's really been me relying heavily on the other partners involved to bring that project to fruition.
Right.
It's just, I can't even wrap my head around a retail store.
As long as, like, everybody's goal is the same, like I tell people that come in and work, I'm like, as long as our goal is the same, you're never going to make a bad choice. As long as the goal is to do the absolute best we can, you're never going to make the wrong choice. If it's in light of the best I can do today, there's not a wrong choice to be made.
That's an awesome perspective to have.
Yeah, if you really try.
Yeah, a mistake at that point is a learning experience. You know, if you were genuinely trying your best, you made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the end
now
of
we
the
know.
world. Yeah.
Now we know.
And you went about it with the best of intentions. It wasn't a lazy mistake or you know, just a non-caring mistake. It was well intended, but a genuine mistake.
Right.
You know, that's a perfect scenario for, like, you know, long-term learning.
Yeah, it really, and like me and you sharing the knowledge, not so much on our successes, but how did we fail? Like, when did we take the wrong steps? I think that's way more important to talk about, because I'm like, sometimes I'll be like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that, and then I come across it in 4 months, and I'm like, he said that, you know, he did this, and, you know, it's just like all these nuances in the industry that you might have ventured down with your past that I hadn't quite, you know, it's like keeping all that education around is so important, I think.
Yeah, and I think just keeping it transparent, you know, like, we're all struggling to learn this plant. I mean, like, there's not enough research on it. Yeah, no. We're all shooting from the hip,
doing
you know. We are doing the research in the groundwork, and that's where, you know, you touched on YouTube's the worst learning platform. Yeah. Almost everything written as of the last few years is the worst learning template ever, because it's all based on some guy's experience and how they did it once or twice in their own environment.
Right.
You know, versus learning hands-on how it works in your system, or, you know.
If you're honest and you're a good grower, you will just say that you just don't know.
Yeah, and then
I don't know if that works.
That opens all of the avenues to, well, because I don't know, how do I learn?
Right.
Let's try choice A or door A, and what's behind door B. You know, door A was a massive mistake that cost a year of your research to figure out and curve, but you'll never make it again.
I tell everybody we're dealing with aliens inside that we cannot communicate with. Truly, the plants, they're the most alien thing on the earth. I mean, you can snap a plant in half, and guess what? The bitch is gonna grow. It's gonna find a way.
Yep. So,
not one way's wrong, not one way's right. It might not be financially smart, whatever. That's not besides the point. But just, I wish the information kind of would go away that there's definite ways to do this or do that, or this is, you know, there's no wrong, no right. There's no I know. Like, the one thing you do might make you successful that I didn't do and failed.
Yeah, and then I think a lot of that too is like there's just so many variables that are uncharted. You know, it's like that strain or one particular strain might not grow super well for me in my feed charts because my base nutrient isn't heavy or light enough for it, or the way I clone isn't, you know, establishing it right from the roots. And there's just so many factors that, you know, this spike in humidity on day 36 maybe benefited these OG Kushes severely positive and the sour diesel severely negative. Like, and it's so
round to round and batch to batch, strain to strain, it's like impossible to figure out those little nuances other than learning from your own mistakes and get familiar with your strains in your environment.
That's why I tell patients, don't tell me a strain sucks. It's not the strain.
Yeah,
it's because
who grew it or the round or
most
whatever.
people don't realize, like, nobody's growing the same phenotype. Most people don't even know what a phenotype is. Most people don't know every seed, no matter where it's from or what it is completely different. Like seeds 1 through 10. The spectrum, for me, I pop a seed and I'm looking for this out of this plant, and that's what I keep.
Yes.
They're nowhere. I wish I could show people they're nowhere near the same.
I've found the easiest way to articulate that to the non-weed nerd is by establishing a connection between like your family members, your brothers and your sisters, and your mom and dad. Like your mom and dad are the parents, the same as those seeds, but then you and your brother might look similar, but you might have brown hair, he might have blonde, he might be red hair, and you
he might be a freak athlete that's born with a six-pack, and you might just be susceptible to have a gut.
Exactly, but you're all still the same family. That family is just like a strain.
Right.
And I think explaining it like that I guess in layman's terms, it's recepted much more from the early consumer.
Right. That's the hardest thing, is because every store needs to be specific about every grower's strains.
Yeah, and how their phenotypes are either selected or not, And
gonna hit you, because like my Purple Punch might not be the same as yours, like effect-wise.
Yeah, the potency, terpene profile are all so different. And I guess that's what keeps me so intrigued, is the different genetic profiles that are out there that are yet to be explored. The things the industry as a whole has uncovered in the last 5-7 years are really just pushing the charts.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy resin production or crazy new terpenes, and we're just scratching the surface now.
Just barely.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive and negatives to all this like polyhybridation going on within the gene pool, but the one cool advantage of it is so much new untapped potential. Varieties that we think we've seen tons of good weed, but what we've seen still is just a little tip of the iceberg, and there's so much to be discovered.
I tell everybody, I'll throw any seed in dirt and see what it does.
I
don't give a shit.
Yeah, I'm not going to grow 10 lights of it right from the beginning, but we'll give it a shot. Just to, get the toes wet.
Find me some old brickweed. I'll put those seeds in some dirt.
Got some cool seeds for you.
Yeah.
Peter Tosh's nephew gave me a bunch of lamb's breast when I was in Jamaica a couple years back. And
no shit.
Yeah, we made sure to bring those seeds back. I'm scared to invest my time and energy into them, but you're
really?
more than welcome.
Why?
I just got so much going on.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, I do too. I mean, it's like I probably have 30,000, 40,000 seeds in there. Half have been just given to me, and I'm like, fucking A. Like,
you'll get to them. We're not.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think. And recently I've been playing a lot around with open pollinations within smaller rooms and just creating my own lines to play with for.
Tell me what you think about this idea. I'm thinking about taking every seed I have, spreading them all between like 6 beds outside, so like 30,000 plants, and just letting it all cross-pollinate completely, taking those seeds and do the same exact thing next year, and then taking those seeds and starting them and trying to find plants.
Yeah, so it sounds so crazy from a grower perspective, but the time I did spend out in Cali, you would find people do that a lot more often than you think. They take the seeds that their dad or grandfather gave them, that they grew from the good weed that was on that property, and they just run with it. And they look at it more at the perspective of the seeds are all the same strain, but it's because they've been hybridized for that terrier or that small microclimate, and those seeds are whatever P1s or F7s or however far down that gene pool where they are super stable, and they do that every year, throw 100 or 1,000 out, and that's their annual harvest.
Do you think that only the best would survive at that point?
I think you definitely see natural selection taking place, but
would that be considered landrace, you think?
I don't know if you could consider that landrace, but I think you could gear that approach more towards like a sustainable permaculture perspective.
It'd be its own thing, right?
Yeah, and it would over time perform the best in the atmosphere you're breeding for. So those seeds would be the best for your environment.
Right.
They could be gold here on this farm outside.
Right.
But if I bring them inside and change the whole landscape of how they've been bred out for years, I might get dog shit.
Yeah, it would be straight up wildness.
Yeah,
that's what I like.
That would be a cool concept. I know, like bringing it back to when we were in Jamaica, that's kind of how a lot of the farmers out in Orange Hill do it. Orange Hill's like the, I guess, Humboldt of Jamaica.
Okay.
You know, little side of the island. All the Rastas are growing on. That's kind of the thing. They're not picking males out. They're growing tires in the ground and just throwing seeds out there and letting them go, and they cross-pollinate every year, and they're just labeling, you know, whatever Orange Hill Harvest 2016 is that bag of 10,000 seeds, and those will get passed down generational. And
so they're growing 4 seeds.
Yeah, well, for weed, they're not picking males, or it didn't seem like it, so everything was seeded.
So they don't give a fuck.
Exactly. That was kind of the nature of things down there, but that natural selection of the gene pool works its way to where certain families have kind of their strains almost, if you think about it.
Yeah,
you know, the strain, cool. The seed that's been produced on their property, they just keep growing rather than trying to buy or trade or anything, you know.
It's like I tell people, like, you find seeds, it doesn't mean it's bad weed.
No.
Yeah,
it just means somewhere along the lines it got pollinated.
Something fucked up happened sometimes, and sometimes I've noticed my best phenos are finicky.
Yeah, for sure. You know, like the ones that are really worth it are those ones that might slap bananas. Or
I got one that is, like, I tell people it's panic attack weed. Like, you roll it up, you smoke it, you're gonna freak out. If you like freaking out, you smoke it, but it's susceptible. You know, it's just one of those ones. I mean, it came from a seed.
Small seeds in there or something. I mean, the bag seeds, Chem's a perfect example of it. You know, the Chem 91, that's bag seed. The Chem D's bag seed. Chem 4 is bag seed.
I think a lot more of it is than people want to lean on. You know, it's just like,
you know, the whole theory behind Sherb and Gelato, that's all apparently bag seed too, and that's
of course it is
all of the most prominent strains right now.
Right.
And, you know, circle back to the late 90s, early 2000s, that was exactly the Chem Dog. You know, the bag seed, random seed turned out stellar.
Hell yeah.
You know, and repetitively, you know, there was a handful of bag seeds out of those original ounce or whatever it was that Greg did, and almost all of them were bangers, and they're still circulated in today's industry. You know, the Chem D, the Chem 4, the Chem Cis, the Chem 91, those are all from the same bag seed from 1 ounce of weed, and they're all elite keeper phenos.
That's so crazy.
So when you think of it like that, it's scary to pay tons of money for seeds when, you know, the right love and the right attention to anything is going to work out. And, you know, those really unique gems are out there. It's just, you don't know if they're in some hype breeders packs or in the next bag of weed you're going to buy.
Some of the best seeds I've ever found are from the craziest fuck that ever lived this earth. You know, like, just a guy that I was just like, these seeds, if they are what he says they are, they're sick, but most likely they're not. And then I put them in, and I'm like, that Z-Chem.
Nice.
That's from Mark, Vacation Land, like the madman of the industry. And I'm like, everything I grew, I'm like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah.
This guy should be, seeds should be everywhere.
Yeah, it's wild how it happens. I mean, I kind of found that too, like the first little pollination I did, just purely out of interest. There was no ever concept of selling seeds or even maybe ever popping them. It was more like, what will happen if we put a male in here? And, you know, over the course of a year or two, through popping different seeds, this one male just kind of really stood out.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in the room, and I was so scared to grow any of the seeds that I just offered them to everybody I knew for free. I'm like, hey, I just did, this is what I did. I put a male in here and flowered it out to all my females. If it interests you at all, let me know. I'll give you seeds.
I love it.
And a lot of people are like, oh, you didn't test them, I don't want them. I'm like, no, that's exactly why I'm putting it out there, so you guys can test them.
That's why it's free.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm scared to test them. That's why they're free.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, that lack of confidence in the seeds obviously didn't have a ton of people interested in them, but you know, over the course of 6 months I probably gave away 1,000 seeds, and you know, it's slowly, the feedback started trickling, like, oh, they were all awesome, oh, look at these pictures. I'm like, wow, I gotta grow some of these seeds. Finally got the courage up to pop them, and, you know, over the last year and a half or so, probably gone through 200-300 different phenos from this cookies and cream line, and they all seem very consistent, and just seeing how relatively easy it was. And I'm no breeder, I'm no genetic expert. I know there's probably plenty of things that I did wrong or playing mistakes I still have to make while playing around with this interest, but how easy it was to get a lot of viable seed that
is proven quality. It didn't take much effort or cost. I mean, millions of seeds out of a 6 light little room. It's like more seeds than I'll ever know what to do with for the rest of my life. Just out of one harvest. And we just finally did the next harvest where we took a keeper chem times cookies and cream and found a male from that. The same thing. I have another couple 100,000 seeds that we'll do, find people who want to hunt them and hopefully find those gems.
That's the, I like that all this stuff's being brought to light. It's not impossible.
No, I think those little seed projects are things that more interested hobby growers should really dive down, because it's cannabis becomes more interesting at that point. Smoking something that you created, although it's got to come from somebody else's creation at this point, but it's just something you put a little bit of that energy and foresight into, and it tastes different,
it's that enough different to where it has its own spin and it's yours,
it's worth chasing.
That's the key, like I said, that's going down the sustainability road. You take that amount of seeds and you times it by even 100 a pack, it's like, I do it myself, and find something just as good, maybe better, and now it's Maine whatever or whatever you want it to be,
and you're guaranteed to find something more unique if you created it. The chances of somebody else of doing the same crosses, it's pretty slim. And it's out there. In my case, I took Exotic Genetics Mike's cookies and cream male. And, luckily he was super enthused with the concept of me doing it, which made me feel good. But I took his creation and crossed it back to all of my females. So I have Gorilla Glue. So I incidentally recreated Grease Monkey. Not that I'll ever sell seeds as Grease Monkey, but some of those natural similarities happen, but a lot of the unique phenos that I do grow, back to the cookies and cream, crosses that many people will never be able to do. So you kind of guarantee that unique profile as a smoker. If you're doing it yourself. If you're sustainable, you're playing with your own senses versus just taking some clone from some guy and because it's good growing it.
Or buying a pack for $350.
And then that same thing, anyone could go buy a pack of those same seeds for $350 and hopefully get a similar phenotype. Where, you start kind of bringing it in house.
So, gas station, Ripple Wellness, Supply Co. Basically, what I take from this is people that are chasing it, just keep chasing it. Just keep fucking going.
It'll come. It's a constant grind. There's so many hurdles, so many times I wanted to just pack it all up and say sayonara, but it's just keep my nose down and keep cranking.
And you seem like a guy like me that will give back. You hit us up, you ask questions like, just be patient. Just, with the response, it might not be, like that, but I'm gonna, give you what you need at the time, even though you might not think it's what you need. Just, down to help, down to do whatever we can, but there's only so much.
Exactly. And I just think, like, going about everything now, all the things I've learned over failed or successful business endeavors and life choices, it's like that full transparency is just needed with everything. And even just your day to day, what makes you happy, you tell people what makes you happy, it's gonna come right around. It comes big time down to the cannabis brand and what we're after. It's that long-term stability and chasing the culture versus that financial industry everybody seems to be after.
Just being the one at the end at the finish line, if there is one. Like we talk about all the time.
Hopefully at the finish line with a bunch of like-minded people.
A bunch of friends at the end of the day, and then they're just like, we fucking did it, and those guys,
there's no first or last.
They were supposed to beat us, but
exactly.
They didn't have it, So we definitely appreciate you coming in and telling everything and keeping that going. That's awesome.
For sure. I'm sure it's kind of scrambled, but
they all are anyways. Thank you for the time.
Of course. Thanks for having me.